Hey there, Smite fans, Aggro here. Look, every single year, the SPL just keeps getting better. Season 7 was incredible, and in Season 8, I'm sure our players are going to take their game to the next level. But in order to do that, they're going to need the best gear they can get their hands on. And that's why I'm so excited to announce the title sponsor for Season 8 of the SPL is Alienware. Yeah, that Alienware. Our players are getting the best of the best in computer gaming. These Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition PC setups are insane. Not only will these be the PCs that the players will compete on once we are in studio, but Alienware is also providing one for each player at their home setup to make sure their practice is as good as possible. Now let's get down to brass tacks. The specs on these Alienware Aurora Ryzen Edition desktops are amazing. An AMD Ryzen 9 16-core processor.
That's a lot of cores.
That's plenty of processing power.
That's a lot of cores.
Plenty of cores.
If you want to stream, this is the way to go.
I know a lot about my cores, so. I mean, Pilates, right?
64 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM.
What? Is that true?
That is true.
I mean, this thing has 64 gigs of DDR4 RAM.
Which you can do literally anything with.
Literally anything.
I've never had more than 16 gigs.
That's quadruple the amount I have at home.
And one of the hottest commodities in the PC world, an NVIDIA GeForce 3090 graphics card.
Insane how much better this is than what I have.
The best graphics you really need, Ultra, of course.
Content's gonna look good.
And what's the point of all the power if you can't see it? Players will also be using the Alienware 25-inch 240Hz monitors.
Man, when I load into scrims with this bad boy, I'm gonna feed so hard. And it's gonna be in perfect picture quality.
We are so excited to be partnering with Alienware for Season 8 of the Smite Pro League. And the best part is, this VIP treatment, it's not just for the pros. You too can get the best possible Smite experience. Just go to smitegame.com/Alienware and use code SMITEAW to get special discounts on some of Alienware's best products. Thanks again to Alienware. Make sure you're following them on Twitter and Instagram. That's at Alienware on both platforms. And you can join their community at alienwarearena.com.
And you're telling me an alien wore this?
Happy Friday, Smite fans. You are watching the SWC qualifier placement event, and today is a big one. We got the finals of both groups, still matches to be played throughout the rest of the week, but teams will be going to Worlds after our matches today. That's the most important fact, and all of it powered by our friends over at Alienware. This amount of high-octane action, you can't get it done on any old PCs, any old equipment. Alienware is the gear that you need to get it done. And you can get your own Alienware gear at smitegame.com/Alienware. Use code SMITEAW. Make sure to follow them at Alienware on all those social media platforms. Shoutouts to Alienware. Thanks to Alienware for sponsoring us this year in the SPL. My name is Dolson. Gormizer joins me for what is hopefully, Gore, a very, very exciting day of matches.
Yeah, I'm actually really pumped for this one. Again, first off, we get two people who will then qualify for Worlds. That's a huge deal, being able to know at least part of that bracket.
Well, 10
more
people.
tthe 2
teams.
What did I say? 2 people?
Yep.
Oh yeah, 2 teams. That's
You know
a
what,
good
Gore?
catch.
No, we can't start off like this. I love being on the desk with you. We'll keep it rigid and straightforward throughout the onset. Yesterday we saw some lopsided matchups. Over in Group B, it has been sort of this interesting back and forth week so far, and important game here today between the Jade Dragons and the Olympus Bolts, the two teams that I think were favored to come out of this group, and Gore, 2 teams, both Jade Dragons and the Bolts, who have gotten it done against their opponents, 3-0 fashion, both teams looking strong.
Yeah, I think that's a huge deal for them to be able to come in. Again, not a lot of footage to be able to watch on them. If you go back to what I think it was the pregame interview for the Dragons, they were mentioning the fact that they haven't really had mini games in the last month and a half for either of these teams to look at. And there's a lot of weight behind it. These two teams have gone back and forth in a lot of circumstances, and of course that means that it makes it even more interesting to see who's going to be able to actually get that spot to Worlds today.
And of course, this is the schedule over in Group A. Group A, the only group out of 2 that have had a set that is not a 3-0. That 3-2, the Solar Scarabs over the Oni Warriors, planted the Solar Scarabs in this matchup to go to the World Championships against the Atlantis Leviathans, who took care of the Winter Dogs in 3-0 fashion. So that means, if you look at the bracket, that the Winter Dogs and the Oni Warriors, they will play later on, not today, for one last chance in that last chance matchup. So not all is over for either the Leviathans or the Scarabs or the Dragons or the Bolts with a loss here today. But with the Smite World Championship berth on the line, maybe one of the highest pressure matchups that any of these 4 teams have played so far here this year. In the Atlantis Leviathans score, I want to start with them here in this matchup up against the Solar Scarabs. This is a team where all year long the conversation has been the regular season matchups have been good. They have taken care of business. Every team is going to lose some games throughout the regular season.
Yeah.
How do they perform in these playoff events? We have seen growth from Season 7 with this Leviathans team, and this would be a massive, massive win for these guys, able to get a berth early on in this tournament into the Smite World Championships. And when the going gets tough, Gore, when the games get high pressure, high octane, who do you lean on? But maybe one of the best supports in the league in Wrong You.
Yeah, and I actually think that it's a really, really important detail to have, because one of the things that makes this team so difficult to deal with is the fact that every single one of them have gods you don't want to have to play against, right? And I think that goes maybe triply for the support, because this is a god you just can't let Wrong You have, right? If Yamoja is in the mix, we've honestly gotten to the point where we can almost just say the game's over. Like, it's going to be a win for them, or at least it has trended that way. I'd have to double check, but I'm pretty sure they've won at least 90% of their Yamoja games, if not more, honestly. And I think that creates a lot of versatility for them. I also think it's worth mentioning, I mean, you talk about regular season, and that's the perfect way to highlight this. They have only dropped a single game to the Scarabs this year, and it was all the way back in Phase 1, so it was, while things were still getting fresh for a lot of people.
Yep.
That being said,
Different rosters,
they did not play against the Scarabs during the groups in Phase 3. So it's been like 4 months or something like that, maybe 3 months since they've played this team. It's going to be a lot more interesting to see how exactly they tackle them knowing that, but I think that the way they typically play is, admittedly, what they said in an interview the other day, is they're just going to come in and play their game and see what happens.
Well, Leviathan, just as a mascot, feels right for this team. I mean, it feels like any single player. I mean, it should have multi-heads. I don't know if there's any Leviathans that have 5 heads out in the wild, because it is a real creature, by the way. You heard it here first. But it feels like this is a 5-headed beast of a team, whether it's Wrong You, Zapman. Panatom has had a fantastic series of performances here as well. But Wrong You, the backbone of this Atlantis Leviathans team, the in-gauge menace himself, standing by for the pregame interview.
Yeah, that's right. I got Wrong You here with the Leviathans. You had a good matchup earlier on in the week, and now you got to go up against the Scarabs, who took the Oni Warriors all the way to 5 games. As Gore said, you've only dropped one game to them all season long. Now you got to go up against a kind of newly revitalized. How do you think the matchup's going to go today for you guys?
Well, we got to respect all the teams here in the tournament because it's a world qualifier, so everyone's going to try their best. So we're going to try our best as well.
One of the things that we kind of talk a lot about on the desk is, holding strategies, not revealing all of your hand here. How important is it when you get to, these final sets? Is it to either still hide some of those strategies or to let everything out to make sure that you get that chance to qualify?
Well, like right now you can show everything because you're playing for World Finals and you're going to have more time to prepare, more strats for World, so you can show everything here or you can save it, but I think showing everything right now, it's okay. So we might show something.
Well, there we go. Maybe a little tidbit out there for all the fans. We got 4 teams that are going to be going to the finals. Obviously, we're sending 2 today and then 2 on Sunday. If you guys qualify, what's one other team that you'd like to see make it there, and what reason?
Maybe an SCC team.
Oh, I'd like to see the SCC team maybe get a little bit of spice out there.
Yep.
Well, Rongi, thank you so much for taking your time to be here with the pregame interview. We're going to throw it back to the desk and let you get back with the team to get ready.
Thank you.
Look, if I know Wrong You, in the back of his head he's thinking, I don't care who else qualifies, we're winning the whole thing. SCC would be fun. That would add some intrigue into it. Confidence and poise from the Atlantis Leviathan support. At this point, and I agree with his point there, what is there to hide? This is the most important matchup they've played all year. It's such a long year, Gore.
Yeah.
The goal, of course, is to win the Phase 1, the Phase 2, the Phase 3 playoffs. But it's to win Worlds, right? That's the point, is to win Worlds. Yeah. And this team is now one set away from being in that final bracket.
And I think it's really interesting just to see the way that they typically tack these things on. I mean, we talk about it all the time, but like, look at the Leviathans over the last couple of years. Like they like playing Smite. Like it's like they love the competitive aspect, but sometimes they're gonna, you know, if they win this set today, I wouldn't be surprised if you told me they went home tonight and were queuing ranked or assault or arena, things like that. Like I know, like Katie was playing Smite randomly the other day at like 11 p.m. She decides to learn. Hardcore's in her arena game because naturally, because like they love playing the game so much, and I think that really opens them up for this circumstance where like they're happy to be here, but like they're also just really good at it. They see a lot of the game and understand what's happening.
Now, Gore, the Leviathans absolutely love the game of Smite. The Scarabs do as well, but I think the same energy the Leviathans have for just Smite in general, the Solar Scarabs have for winning Smite games in general. You talk about the energy that this team brings, the disappointment they feel when the 3-5 game sets don't go their way. Inbound is at the forefront of that conversation. His energy is infectious to this team. He is a leader in and out of game, and I think this team is better off for it. The way that he not only carries himself in game, Gore, but out of game, I think gives this team a bit of an extra edge. But he's going to have to show up big today. Everything we just said about Wrong You means that the support matchup is going to be one of the most important here in this set.
And this is where things, because, you know, I like to lean on stats. There's stuff about Wrong You that I always think are interesting, right? Like, when it comes down to KDA, he's in the top 5. He's the only support that's, like, broke the top 20, things like that.
Yep.
Inbound and the rest of the Scarabs, realistically, are an enigma to a lot of that. Because if you look at the beginning of this year, they weren't that great. There's no other way to really slice it. They were not playing to the par and the standard that even they set for themselves. And I think if you look at this team now, they are breaking a lot of these standards. Do they still have some problems? Yes. But a lot of this has been isolated. In fact, they figured out a lot of their drafting style, right? There's a couple of things that maybe go wrong for them, but like this, you know, Baronic playing Charybdis, Inbound playing the Sylvanas, I think that's one of his best gods, and he makes it look fantastic. A lot of the things they were playing just the other day in that best of 5 is amazing. Plus, you have to give them a lot of credit because their mental is nuts. They got absolutely thrashed 2 games in a row and then had a reverse sweep, and the way they adapt to sets is something that you have to highlight as well. I think the team now is in a completely different position than they've been in, even, you know, if you just go back to the Phase 3 playoffs, even if you go back to Phase 3 groups, and I think that they are going to give this Leviathans team a run for their money.
There's something about the Solar Scarabs in longer sets, right? The Scarabs technically come into this set against the Atlantis Leviathans on a 3-game win streak because they reverse sweep the Oni Warriors. They lost 2 and won 3 straight games against the Oni Warriors. And so I think that's going to be an important trend for us to follow on the desk here, Gore, and on the cast as well throughout this set. Hard to see a world where the Leviathans get blanked today. You know, the Scarabs the Scarabs are a wild card team. I think it's a low percentage chance that this is a 3-0 for the Solar Scarabs. So the longevity of this set, the bounce back and the adaptation potential for the Solar Scarabs team is going to be very important.
And if you have to look at it, look, the Scarabs, they transitioned. At one point, it was they could never win a game 1. They'd always win game 2, and then game 3 would be up in the air.
Right.
Then it transitioned to they'd always win game 1. Then they'd lose game 2, and then game 3 was up in the air. So this is a team that, you know, sometimes things just don't click, right? Whatever it is, the early game goes wrong, whether it's a draft, whether it's just, you know, somebody happened to do something early on the other team that stalled them out. And sometimes that slip-up happens, but the thing that I think is the most important about it is, one, they ride those games through because we've seen them win some of them. I mean, we talk about it. Phase 3, maybe not playoffs. I think at playoffs they did it once. In groups, I know they did it once, but like 10K plus down, they still win the game because they have a really good map state where they can go in and get a backdoor. I think their ability to read the map actually has been one of my favorites to watch throughout this year.
I think Stuart, the guy on your screen right there as well, Stuart has really grown into this team.
He was nuts the other day.
Right? Fantastic set the other day. Inbound played a variety of picks throughout the last 3 games. In the last 3 games against the Oni Warriors, Inbound played Kuzenbo, Sobek, Sylvanas. And I bring that up because it was different for Stuart, where they leaned into just a couple of picks for Stu. Izanami was looking really good down the stretch in that Oni Warriors set. Olarun was out there as well. Freya got a sneaky pick in that set. So a couple instances of magical ADCs for Stuart. Is that something the Leviathans are prepared for in picks and bans for game number 1? We will find out down the stretch. This is a big one, Gormizer. And I want to cycle back. I have a history of close calls when saying things, as far as caster cursing goes, when saying things like, you will not 3-0 the Atlantis Leviathans, you will not 3-0 so-and-so. I remember last year during the Smite World Championship Finals, I was on the desk with you and Miff, and I said, you're not going to 3-0 Ghost Gaming at the time, and PK went up 2-0, and I was very, very nervous for myself. So we'll see if I've cast or cursed the Atlantis Leviathans here, and if the Solar Scarabs can pull out some magic and win this one quickly. Though I don't think the Solar Scarabs name synonymous with quick sets. I think both sets today, Gore, have the potential to at least go 4 or 5 games. Not at least 5, that's the most you can go. At least go 4 games. I would be surprised if either of the 2 sets today get blanked out at 3-0. And the Atlantis Leviathans are going to pick up right where I left off. A couple bans you would think aimed towards Stewart. Izanami, yes. But I think as of late, the Charybdis may be more of a Veronic pick.
Yeah, this is actually something, I love the way that the bans come out for the Leviathans, because if you look at the Scarabs, Erlong Shin makes sense. That's something Panatom really likes. You look at the Emoja. I literally said this before we had the interview with Wrong You, but if the Leviathans get this, the game might as well be over a lot of the time. And of course, the Hell, who I think is just a powerful pick right now. But when you look at the Leviathans bans, none of those gods are getting banned in the top 3 by any other team, save for maybe Izanami, right? Like, Izanami could flex into those top 3, but most of the time those are bottom 2 at best. But Stewart had some of the best games we've seen him play all year on that Izanami the other day. We've seen Veronic, not just this event, but in past events and in the group stages, rock this Charybdis. And that Naja, despite the fact that it had an atrocious debut for the Scarabs, had some of the best games that were able to turn it around, and I think that's just what Scream's going to be able to give to you.
Yeah, to recontextualize that, Naja for Scream in the first time we saw it in the set against the Oni Warriors went 2-7, whereas on the flip side, Cuvo Fred was like 12-0. On the Fenrir. Naja played in games 4 and 5 for Scream up against the Oni Warriors. Both of those wins. KDA looking a lot better in those last 2. So worthy of a ban maybe from the Atlantis Leviathans.
And here's the thing that is wild, though, because we talked about specifically how this is great, like target banning, right? But go back to the Warriors, and what are they target banning? There was one god that got banned all 5 games. Kali. And it is this Kali, right? It's something that they've been playing. And you look at Kali, and you hear us talk about it. Kali's a late game hyper carry. Scream will start picking up the pace at level 3, though. It's one of the things that it is absolutely wild to see, but he will get engaged early on. With Oleron on your team, it's maybe going to still be a little slower pace, but that's how the Leviathans play already for these top 2. I like the way that the Scarabs are setting themselves up because they know it can shift a little longer.
I'm going to give you a second. If you have Kali win rate for the Solar Scarabs, that would be awesome, because I am curious. You look at a pick like Mercury for Sanford Soccer, been banned out all year long against him. And the win rate's pretty good on that pick. So you're wondering if it's a similar style here where Kali is just that good for Scream, or if maybe it's the potential that it brings to the table. You got it for me, Gore?
83%.
There you go.
He's won 5 of his 6 Kali games.
All right, so, limited data pool, but does show you that.
And some of those were like the back doors. Like some of those are, hey, he's having a bad game and yet still was able to get something done. I think it's something that, despite the fact that it's only 6 games, that's still impressive.
Right, more often than not, he's winning on this pick. And it's not like a 100% win rate in one game. Decent number of games here for Scream. Lots to catch up with here, Gore. My goodness. Oleron, of course, we talked about that. That's somehow the least interesting pick here. Solar Scarabs like that pick for their hunter. Neath, then, you assume, would be in the mid lane for Veronic. And then there's another Freya pick, Gore, but it's not for the Solar Scarabs this time. The Atlantis Leviathans want to dip their toes into the magical ADC pool.
And I like their draft just in the sense, like, Camazot's Terra, like, Terra's going to help make your team a lot tankier. Camazot's has been having a really good weekend, but specifically Leviathans love playing this pick, and it's flexible for them. We saw Hardcore have one of his best games, I think, maybe all year on this pick just the other day. So it's a really, really strong pickup for them. But the Freya is the one that's the most interesting because, like you said, we saw it a couple of days ago. It was interesting when he gets picked up there. Zap has played through metas where Freya is the best god. Zap has played through metas where Freya, if you locked it in, you're going to get laughed out of the battleground, essentially. And so I'm interested to see where this is going to go. But when you're up against Oleron, you are in a good position that you're not getting out pressured immediately, right? If you look at most of the gods they banned out, specifically the Sylvanas, you're not losing lane pressure immediately, and you have that Terra to help back you up. So you're not necessarily going to be swinging for the fences right out of the gate, but he's definitely got time on his side here.
In the one game that we saw Freya up against the Oni Warriors did literally nothing. 0-1-0. Again, that was the game where Cuvo Fred against the Solar Scarabs went absolutely nuclear.
Yeah, he
just shut down everything.
Kind of just did
now, the Solar Scarab score, I think they take away a little bit from what the Oni Warriors found success against them with early on in that set. This Fafnir pick, notably, that Fafnir was just working for Numa and the rest of the Oni Warriors early, and that 5-game set where we saw those two teams facing off. And so they're going to pair that with 3 characters that love a coerce, right? You want an Oleron, a Kali, and a Neith, all to have it if possible. On the flip side, though, Gore, we get our first finished composition of the set with a Daji and an Uller rounding out the drafts here for the Atlantis Leviathans. In the Uller pick, you'd think Zapman, but we've seen Shinto play this pick in this year, and it looked scary.
I'd have to go double check it. I'm pretty sure he's got a 100% win rate when he's played this Uller. Like we talk about Shinto's KDA being ridiculous all the time, but the times he's had to flex to this Uller has been very clean for this team. And when you look at this, especially the Daji, there's a lot of not CC immune ults on the other side, so like that's going to be easy for Panatom to set things up. You pair that with Uller having good stuns. This is going to be a lot of blood early on. Luckily, Neith is a little more early game askew, so that is going to help keep them alive, but she's very predictable in her disengage, things like that. So ultimately that mid 2v2 and then 3v3 as it expands is going to be interesting. But like you said, when it comes to like late game, you've got auto attacker, say that right. Yeah, try to say that 5 times fast. And then you add in the coerce on top of that. I think it just creates a very interesting problem. And admittedly, Neith, you're maybe not looking at her as your late game hyper carry, but you got Oleron Kali with a coerce. Yeah, I'm happy about that. Plus the World Weavers being in mid being a lot easier to find and a lot quicker to find those stuns. It's just a lot of good setup here for the Scarabs.
Yeah, setup's going to be important, especially when you talk about Gore. The fact that Scream, despite a late game pick in the Kali, does like to get active early. So you imagine playing around those World Weavers is going to be pivotal for the Solar Scarabs. Now, when a Hercules gets locked in for the Scarabs, I'm normally very excited that it's Inbound who's playing in an aggressive pick that he's able to set up with. I don't see a world where Fafnir's going solo lane, so that means it's going to be SOT on this Hercules score. And I will give every ounce of credit to Sat, because with some of these more unique picks, there's certain players in the league where you say, all right, I trust him to play this style of pick a little bit better in the solo lane. I think SOT is one of the guys who can make this Hercules work.
And when you think about it, like, because one of the things we always talk about Camazot's, the reason he can survive in solo lane so well is his sustainability and survivability, things like that. Well, Hercules has a lot of that, but he also brings a lot of damage and a really good amount of setup. If you're talking about ganks over here, he's got good CC that's reliable. And when you look at Freya, I mean, Valkyrie's discretion can get you out of a fight, but that's going to be Hercules 2 for a Freya ult. That's always a trade that you're probably worth taking. Same thing, Daji can get away, but she needs someone, whether an enemy or an ally, nearby to be able to do so. I think this Hercules is a really good way to help keep some of the Leviathans a little bit more under wraps and in control.
Now, the Leviathans, remember, in the set that we saw them up against the Winter Dogs, it was a quick 3-0. There's a little pushback from the Winter Dogs, but we got the sense of dominance from the Leviathans. This is going to be a pretty telling game one on what type of team the Atlantis Leviathans are going to be here throughout the rest of the weekend, maybe into the Smite World Championships if they're able to win this set. Freya, admittedly unique here, Gore, for this team. I think Terra's in an interesting spot. Obviously some changes, but it's something that Rongyu played a couple of times up against the Winter Dogs. Do you still think Terra's in a spot to be impactful despite some changes there in the flow of that kid?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think she's perfectly fine. Like, the most that has happened to her in the changes is that she is going to, admittedly, deal less damage, which is perfectly fine for the sport. Rongyu wasn't out here trying to absolutely kill people and slaughter them on his own anyway. It's Zapman and Shinto behind him that are helping out with that, Panatom as well. And so I think this is a pick that not only feels comfortable for them, but is going to open up a lot of doors.
Gormaz with the Solar Scarabs and the Atlantis Leviathans. This one, absolutely huge. Game one. Let's kick it off.
One of these teams is going to the SWC after this set. Which one is it going to be? Leviathans or the Scarabs? Well, only time will tell as we jump in game number one. It's J-Mac and Aggro here to bring you the action in this set. And the first thing that immediately catches my eyes here is just going to be the fact that we have a Freya in this game, and it's going to be on the Leviathans of all teams to pick it up here.
Yeah, I mean, this is the pick that you think of Netrioid for sure, the former hunter for the Leviathans last year, but Zapman pulling it out, and he's got plenty of experience on this pick. Just a little surprised that we see it at all. You know, it's such a feast or famine style pick. It can struggle so much when put behind. But the Scarabs draft does not fight particularly well early. The only thing that they're going to be able to use in the early game is this Neith ultimate to put pressure on Zapman. Other than that, Kali doesn't really scare you that much early. Oleron doesn't really scare you that much early. It's going to be, it might be difficult for them to shut down Zapman on this Freya, but both teams scale so well that it'll be interesting to see who actually ends up on top if we get there.
Yarkor going with this bully Camazotz that we saw yesterday. He's had success across the board, I would say, here in the solo lane. It seems every time one of these seasoned solo laners gets this god, they become an absolute menace here, and Yarkor already putting SOT down to less than 100 health in the first minute of the game. Seems to be a testament of how strong this god's flexibility is over here in this lane.
Yeah, definitely not a great trade there for Solar Troll, but still has a couple of potions and Hercules sustain whenever he hits 3, so not the end of the world for him. I'm not a huge fan of this Hercules pick, though, for Solar Troll, because I don't like paying teams off for buying more anti-heal. You know, the Leviathans were going to make the composition of the Scarabs less effective by buying anti-heal anyways. There's a Kali and there's an Oleron. So they were already going to be building Divine Ruins, Brawler's Beat Sticks, Toxic Blades, whatever it may be, and get good return on those items. And then by picking a solo laner that's a little bit more sustain dependent, like Hercules when it comes to these team fights, those Divines, Brawlers, Contagions, Onks, whatever they get, just get even better against him. Whereas I think a character like maybe Osiris would have fit this draft pretty well, still been able to sit on the carries, but not been as decimated by anti-heal.
Panatom aggressive in the mid lane. Baronic low. It tricks the Spirit in, but a stun by Scream, and then a response by Shinto. A 1-for-1 trade in the mid lane. But it's the Solar Scarabs who come up, pay dirt for the first blood bounty. Maybe a little bit more beyond here. Shinto under the tier 1 tower. But Scream coming up big to save his mid laner, even if only for an extra moment.
And that's a huge timing as well, because it means that Scream might be able to just invade this red. Shinto might be able to steal it away as he is here, but no, Scream gets it. Big play out of the Kali to get that first blood. And even though I said Kali doesn't really scare you early, the only part that's really spooky in the early stages about Kali is that her Incense into Lash combo, the 3 into 2, it does significant burst damage, especially whenever he finishes that Crusher. After you can survive that burst, you're fine most of the time, but that will put a little bit of fear in you, and so that's not a great start for the Leviathans to end up giving up first blood over towards Scream. But Baronic, I don't know if he'd already backflipped or if he just didn't put a point in it. It got a little greedy and held that point at 3 and put it in, 2 points into Spirit Arrow to help him clear. But I kind of kept rambling because I expected him to just backflip away. It just never came.
Man, how long has it been, Aggro, since we have seen a magical hunter lane against each other here? I mean, we've seen, Soul come out over on one side of the map and then Oleron on the other. Pretty much really only those two realistic. I mean, we don't see Kronos very often. We certainly don't see Freya often, but now we can have 2 magical hunters in the same lane against each other.
Yeah, both these are so scaling dependent. Both these characters don't really want to be taking the fight in the early game, but Oleron certainly could have the better end of it, but Stewart actually decided not to go Mannequins, which is the more lane-dominant starter item to pick up on something like Oleron, and neither did Zap. They both go for Gilded, so both a little more worried about their scaling.
Ultimate in from the mid lane. Rongyu will block it out. Sanctified Field out of Stewart. Some good damage up against Rongyu, but not enough to seal the deal. Now to counter rotation from Panatom as he leaps in to go for Stewart. Up onto the Pal Lao. Chains everybody, pulls 2 in, and Rongyu's the one who comes up with the final shot of the kill. Scream low, but Scream will be out.
Inbound in trouble as well. Has that leap, and it will be a 1-for-0, but the Leviathans just in total control of that whole engagement. Neath ultimate comes over, Rongyu, no panic, just going to step in front of that. We drop the Sanctified Field knowing that Rongyu doesn't have beads, so we should be able to slow him down, but Zapman's whoop forces the beads from Stewart, stops a lot of that damage coming onto Rongyu, and then the re-engage from Panatom and Rongyu was absolutely perfect, especially knowing that Stewart's beads were on cooldown. So that's a huge play there for the Leviathans. That gives them a lot of duo lane pressure because now for a minute and a half, Stewart is really a non-participant in any fight, and Panatom could potentially just come right back over and do it all again.
Oh, we do see a small fight over the Totem of Ku, even a boulder expended there out of SOT to make sure that he can secure it for his team. Yarkor will have a decent amount of sustain to keep himself back up. It is a Crusher out of Scream for his first item. Other side here, Panatom picks up a Jotun's Wrath. Scream goes aggressive onto Panatom here, and there's that combo you were just talking about earlier. That was half of his health in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, right, just like that. I mean, it's a fairly long cooldown for both of those abilities, so you're not getting multiple off in a team fight very often, but it's all about just dealing enough to set up for your team.
Shinto half health by Baronic and inbound here. A nice little hammer set up for the Spirit Arrow I should say. And it's going to be a transcendent start for both of these mid lane hunters, but it's going to be a mannequins versus a bluestone here in the mid lane. Talk to me a little bit about, kind of why the mannequins on Neath when you'd expect it to be another kind of bluestone hunter.
Yeah, I'm more of a fan of the bluestone for sure, but this just means that those autos are going to hit harder. It lets Baranek be a little bit better at clearing jungle than Ullr. Normally Ullr would have the heavy advantage in that department, but mannequins makes it a lot easier for Baranek to keep pace.
Solo laners are battling it out, but the junglers are here, and so is Wrong Yu. A stun onto Scream, and he doesn't even have an opportunity to get that destruction ultimate through. Wrong Yu eats the Spirit Arrow and inbound. Too late on the return to help out his teammate. It's the Leviathans to come up with another kill, 3-1 up early in the game. And not much of a goldie here, about 300 even despite all these kills.
Love this combo the Leviathans have. Getting Terra alongside some characters with dots just feels so good. Insta-pop that ultimate. Scream's not ready for that burst damage quite yet. Whether it was Vampiric Bats or some tick damage from Panatom, it just ends up being too much for him to handle. It ends up dying and maybe would have died anyways. Yarkor had ultimate, so probably dies even if he uses Destruction, because as soon as he gets hit by that Powwow, he's getting pulled back in. That puts significant dot damage on you. You're not going to end up surviving long enough to get out of range of Yarkor in that moment.
And we get a nice up-close and personal view of exactly what happened over in that solo lane. Initially, it was all up against SOT, but as a stun through, and it seems that it may have just been a combination of just a couple of basics there from Yarkor and the dots out of Panatom, but Scream pops instantly, and that's able to get a kill on the board. That time for Wrong Yu. So 3 up on the board, spread across the team here. And kind of talking about, going back to these magical hunters, we actually see a Hastened Ring versus a Ring of Hecate on the opposite side for them.
Yeah, I like the Hastened Ring a lot for Freya. We talk about her as a on-switch, off-switch type of character where when her 2 is up and her 1 is up, she's going to out-DPS like anybody. But when they're down, she's basically worthless. So you want to maximize that time. You want to get attack speed because it's duration-based, not attack-based, and you want to be able to get as much aggression as possible during that time. So Hasten Ring, classic combo with the Freya, lets her really go off.
Another initiation here onto SOT. Dots come through from Panatom with 1,000 cuts, chasing him out, using the Scorpion to try and hold out. Bat out of hell from Yarkor, but a push under the tower. SOT might be able to turn this one around and see if he can get out of here. He does have the help from the tower shot to kill Panatom on landing. But Yarkor is the one who comes up at the end to get an extra kill.
Really well played by Sot in that moment to get that 1-for-1, make sure that he doesn't just get traded out for nothing. That backstep was absolutely beautiful.
A lot of damage, or attempted damage to be thrown here at Wrong Yu, but he's fairly tanky on this Terra. He'll pop the ultimate in response to help Zapman out. And Scream is falling low. He's going back and forth trying to get some help here. Once the minions come through, Scream walks through the tower, but now they left inbound all by himself to leap over the wall and be met by Shinto on the other side.
But Shinto missed the axe, so he's not going to be able to lock him down easily. Good stun coming from Wrong Yu, but I just don't see a world where there are actually enough damage there to kill inbound. Lose a couple of ultimates there if you're the Leviathans, namely Wrong Yu's ult, but you did get the blink from Scream. Still, anytime you can get out of that Terra ult range without losing someone is a good thing.
Well, we get to see some of the early damage of the Freya. Puts Stewart down to about half, but he's sitting inside the tower line, so not much more can be had there. I'll be very curious to see how this matchup goes later on. It does often feel that Freya can just win those boxings no matter what when you get to that late game, but what's the opportunity, kind of the window for an Olorun to win some of these trades?
Gotta get some autos on her before she pops her steroids, because with this Ring of Hecate in particular, the magical version of Ikaval, if you can start the trade with some Hecate stacks on the Freya, you might be able to actually out-DPS her. But at this point in the game, Olorun is just so much more teamfight focused with Sanctified Field. I don't know that he's ever going to feel very comfortable in the 1v1 with Zap, assuming everyone has all buttons available. Freya, it's hard to lose a 1v1 as Freya once you get Hastened Ring, as long as you're hitting your autos during that time period.
Well, it seems that this kind of solo lane build that's come out for these Camazotz is still sticking around here. The Blackthorn Hammer's become very popular amongst any physical solo laner at this point in time. But this Transcendence immediately after seems to kind of be the go-to rush for these Kama solos.
Just difficult to punish this character for building a lot of power like this, right? I mean, if the Hercules starts building Transcendence, you'll see Panatom come right over, just get a kill easily because he doesn't have that type of survivability. But because Camazotz has so much healing,
and does so much damage, as we just saw from him on the Scream, and has all that survivability, he can get away with this type of build better than other solos.
Let's see if anybody on the Scarabs can get away from the Leviathans. A stun out of Wrong Yu. Knock up out of SOT just off the mark. Inbound is getting chunked away by this Daji, by this Kamazot's forced up in Draconic form. But as soon as he lands, he's going to be bursted away by Shinto with the hail of arrows. Puts a 5th kill up for the Leviathans. The Scarabs, or at least for SOT, doesn't look like he wants to give up just yet.
Not yet, but I don't think he's got a choice. The Leviathan's just too strong around this Pyromancer. And Inbound went from feeling really tanky to not feeling very tanky at all, because everyone finished their flat pen items in that second slot, namely this Brawlers and this Crusher there for Panatom and Shinto respectively. And I really expected Inbound to go for a Sovereignty in this game. You're going to need magical protection for sure, but Uller, Daji, and Kamazot's, two of those three you're going to be seeing in your mid 3v3 in the early stages of the game. That's a lot of physical damage, and to be going what I'm assuming is going to be a Divine Ruin. You know, they don't have a good Divine Ruin applicator. I think going Divine in this game is fine on the Fafnir, because don't forget that whenever you coerce someone, they will inherit that Divine passive. But you need, I really feel like he needs a Sovereignty in order to not get snowballed on in the early stages. I would have vastly preferred seeing him go Sovereignty, then Divine. You know, maybe by that point, Zapman's doing too much damage to him, so you know, you got to put yourself in a catch-22 either way, but as it stands, very squishy.
Well, Baronic gonna lose 3/4 of his health in an instant, and maybe the rest of it. Shinto gets the final shot to take him down, and it started like it was gonna be a good trade there for Baronic, and then, well, Wrong You showed up and decided that nobody's killing my mid laner, nobody is gonna put him in danger, and they turn around and put their 6th one up on the board.
Just can't be going for contested mids at this point in the game. There's too much burst damage and just didn't have anyone around him, way too alone.
Inbound leaps away, but now he doesn't have the leap. He's only got a transformation. Stewart will unleash everything he has stored up from the orb to throw some damage out, but that sets up for the Gold Fury. Scream is here. Scream goes
Big
in,
stun.
gets a triple stun, pops the destruction, going for Zapman, but Valkyrie's discretion is there to put him down. Inbound gets yanked into the Powwow. A quick transformation, and ultimate out of the mid laner from Baronic is on the way in, but it will not find anything aside from some damage on the tank. The Leviathans come up with an easy kill.
Look, I mean, Scream does his job in that moment. He stops them from getting the Gold Fury. Stewart
Goodbye.
barrel stuffs Zapman down and gets that easy solo kill on the left-hand side. Got a crit on that channel.
I gotta imagine,
so,
right?
Yeah, that doesn't feel great on the other side. But either way, I mean, the Leviathan's definitely controlling the pace. That is a big kill for Stu to grab right there, because they need a win condition right now if you're the Scarabs. I mean, Scream is your late-game win condition for sure. Veronica's too far behind in mid now to be a real win condition for you. Stewart's even, and by getting that solo kill, maybe can start to expand into a legitimate lead, and the Scarabs will have an easy way to play the map, which is focus on Scream getting his farm and protecting Stewart. If we can do those two things, we're going to win this game. Leviathans, I imagine, will now spend a little bit of extra time making sure that Zap doesn't end up falling behind.
And speaking of Zap here, going for the 3rd ring now. The Queen of the Rings out here on this Freya. Hasten Ring, Ring of Hecate to match the one that Stewart has picked up, who his second item instead has been this Typhon's Fang for a little bit extra lifesteal and some percent pen. And Zapman, after that death, he's now sitting a little bit behind Stewart, about half level down to him, working towards that 3rd ring. Shinto and Wrong Yu just kind of goaltending over here towards this mid lane, but Inbound and 2 others from the Scarabs are waiting to try and catch him out.
Yeah, but Shinto's playing at such a range. You know, they know Scream doesn't have Blink, and Shinto's poke is starting to really hit home.
Panatom blinks in to go with his teammate, teleports in with the Trickster Spirit, goes right up to Baronic, but it's Scream who's the one who gets bursted out. Shinto with the first kill of the fight. And now with a 4v3, the Scarabs don't want to walk too far forward because Stewart is forced to use the beads, Sanctified Fields to hold him out, but Yarkor pops his own beads, pops the bat out of hell, and pops Stewart.
Stu has no shot, even with the relics and the ultimate, and the Leviathans looking like an unstoppable force, just going one after the other. Okay, we can hit Baronic. Let's hit Baronic. Oh, he's out. All right, Scream it is. Stewart's turn. You know, it's everyone. As soon as they walk up, Leviathans always feel like they have a CC ready, whether it's Axe or Terra Stun or Yarkor jumping in. They just have all these tools in order to close gap and make the Scarabs uncomfortable. And not only do the Scarabs lose a couple of key members there, but they lost a ton of relics at the same time, both beads and Aegis for Baronic and Stewart, and it still clearly didn't end up mattering that much. So the Scarabs just don't seem to have an answer right now, and a big part of it was that Solar Patrol wasn't there in that fight. The Yarkor was obviously doing great work in order to pressure out Stewart and create space for Panatom to come in and deal that last bit of damage. But Solar Patrol has got to get involved in these fights at some point, because as it stands, the Leviathans are just rolling them.
And when we talk about XP leads here, Shinto has 2 levels up over Baronic. Rongyu about a level and a half up over Inbound, so the first major power spike between the supports at the very least comes through, with second relic fully upgraded, it seems, here for Rongyu with that shell. Inbound still not level 12, so he doesn't have access to it, and sorely lacking in some of the defense there, because it is that Divine Ruin second item. Dash out of SOT. May have just sealed his own fate there. He's down to half health and being chased out by 3 of the Leviathans, but a massive heal comes back to keep him alive. He gets a bat out of hell from Yarkor after a push in the tower.
Yeah, just that Brawler speed stick for anti-heal, and clearly not enough to handle the Hercules at this point. That heal ends up being huge. Would definitely like to see the Leviathans itemized for a little bit more anti-heal. I do not think they have enough with just 1 Brawlers. No Ankh for them, you know, no Contagion, no Pestilence. I think that's the direction I would probably go. It looks like Rongyu is looking to build a Divine Ruin as well, similar to Inbound, because neither team has really good Divine Ruin applicators, so that does make some sense to me. But overall, if I'm the Leviathans and I'm like, surely we have Solar Patrol dead, he just dashed in, and there are 3 or 4 of us here, and then to see him get that much health back, I think that would make me want to build the anti-heal that much more.
It seems that was a given sign. Zapman goes aggressive against Scream to try and box him out. He eats a World Weaver Destruction. Gets popped from Scream to try and immune most of the Valkyrie's discretion, but it's not going to be enough time. A knock-up inside the Sanctified Field from Stewart, and Zapman is as good as gone, floating indefinitely to his own doom.
Panatom looking for Scream, can't find him, but will settle for finding Stewart. Stewart has the beads and he'll use them, but only Inbound on the way to help.
Rongyu is on the top side of the fight. They're going to hold out for the time being. Shinto is here, throws some big damage at Stewart, but Stewart and Inbound are already gone from the fight. A quick kill up against Zapman, but it did cost them quite a bit to get.
It cost him a lot, but Zapman is definitely worth the investment at this point. And you get his ultimate and both relics. Really did not like that fight selection from Zap at all. There was no help coming. They were very far away. He sees Stewart on the wave and left, and then still takes the fight against Scream, so he knows Stewart's going to come help. He knows that he's going to get Neath-ulted by Baronic, or should at least assume he's going to get Neath-ulted by Baronic, and then still takes a fight that's going to be like a 2.5-on-1. He almost got Scream anyways, but, you know, is that really worth it at the end of the day, even if he does get him, because you know that so many people are going to get assist gold for your death, whereas only you are getting your kill gold. Just don't love that decision-making there from Zap.
Well, it will be the 4th and final ring to kind of round out Zapman's build. Now, when you look at 4 rings here on a Freya, what's kind of the 5th item that you look towards? You just go for the raw power of a Rada Tahuti? Do you go for some extra pen? Do you go some lifesteal? I mean, what's maybe the thought process with Zap on a final item?
I think he needs pen. I think you need a little bit more penetration. Just this build only gives you that demonic shred, which is, again, very similar to Executioner for physicals. You wouldn't look at a Hunter build and say, oh, Executioner is enough pen. You know, I think you still need some percent pen in there. So I'd expect it to be something like Obsidian Shard or Charon's Coin, something along those lines. He could go Divine, and that could be fine, I suppose. I think I would have preferred it a little bit earlier, but attack speed is so key on this character that I would understand not wanting to get it until you've got as much attack speed as you need. Could go Toxic Blade, would give you attack speed and some flat pen, so that probably wouldn't feel too bad. I wonder if he's got room for multiple of these items, because, you know, I don't know that he's going to want to upgrade that starter item, because you're not building into the crit one, because you can't crit. So, you know, it's only the other one that would give you a ton of attack speed, which is probably good enough to warrant going, but you could always sell it for a different option.
Imagine a crit Freya, though. Actually, you know what? Don't imagine that. That's probably
Gross.
a terrifying world. Maybe not as terrifying as a crit Chronos that I talked with Mifflin earlier about. You know, somebody gets a fail knot, and then you have your Chronos critting for, what, like 800 plus damage, and auto would be absolutely terrifying. SOT starts with the Fire Giant over here. I think is maybe just to get a ward of some kind over. Contagion out of him, so he's got some physical defense, he's got some anti-heal, and he's got a lot of health in the build, to say the very least, going with that Shield of Regrowth third item.
Not a lot of procs, though, specifically magical protection. I've got a feeling Zap is going to make the difference in killing this Hercules. I really don't see a world where Solar Patrol can face tank Zapman's Freya damage for a considerable amount of time. So I think the Leviathans should be very willing to just take a really simple front-to-back team fight, hit the tanks in front of you. We're going to shred them really easily. Inbound is not tanky. Solar Patrol is not tanky to Zapman in particular. That should be the direction, in my opinion, that the Leviathans should be going.
That's going to be a quick Oni Fury out of the Leviathans. No response out of the Solar Scarabs to even go towards that objective. Not sure if they even had any vision or knowledge that somebody had walked over there until the sound alert goes off. Instead, you see the Scarabs start grouping around this right side. Fire Giant is up, but with everybody on the Leviathans up, can't imagine the Solar Scarabs try and pull a risky Fire Giant pull.
No, that would be something else for either team to really go for. But the Leviathans, if they can get positional advantage, I think that they really could put significant threat on this Fire Giant. But it is worth noting that a couple big power spikes just came through for the Scarabs. Chin Size done for Scream, Sundering Axe done for Solar Patrol, Spirit Robe done for Inbound, Demonic done for Stewart. All of those are really big power spikes, but the Leviathans are hitting power spikes at the same time. They're all sitting on completed items as well. So I think that this is going to be a pretty key fight, and everyone's going to be at a pretty strong point. Even with the Leviathans being as ahead as they are, you look at itemization, there's really no significant difference between them. Scream, always leaves that a charged bow, so he's not at a true 4-item spike, but pretty darn close to it.
It does give him quite a bit of attack speed here, but another objective taken by the Leviathans. It will be the Pyromancer this time around, and that's just, again, kind of a lack of vision here from the Scarabs. The only ward they've got to the top end there, SOT, he gets blocked out by the wall. That was placed out by Rong Yu. The Leviathans are already posturing up around this Fire Giant. They're kind of forcing the Scarabs to respond to this as they even go with an immediate pull of the objective, waiting to see who will walk forward. It is Inbound and SOT here. Stewart all the way at the backside of the fight.
You can just keep playing that same play over and over again, though. We just wait for Zapman to find a whoop on a frontliner. They're going to drop him straight into a Terra Stun, and then we're going to be able to shred them from there. Rongyu's wall was a little bit misplaced the last time around, so that didn't end up working out, but there's no reason that style of play can't just continue. No Magi's or anything like that on the front line here for the Solar Scarabs, so that play should continue to work pretty easily.
It seems the Leviathans will just go ahead and back themselves up, get a little bit of extra farm, maybe even head back to the base and recuperate their wards. Both teams kind of need it, and Shinto needs a lot of help. Beads expended, a jump in by Scream, but the Whoop is able to hold him out. Destruction pop just to keep Scream alive. Shinto's still low in the back end of the fight, and Zapman's the one to take down Scream. First blood of the fight goes the way of the Leviathan. Stewart down to half health, pulled back into the powwow, and the Vampire Bats plus Panatom take him down.
Rongyu finds the double root. Baronic's got a backflip away, but the Leviathan's already on the victory march. They thought they caught Shinto, but Shinto caught them.
Baronic down to about 10%, and Hardcore is the one to end that one, making a double kill for the solo laner. And the Leviathans pick off 4 in the mid lane. And aggro, this could just be game right here.
Yeah, I think that's just game one. Stewart just did not find a particularly good sanctified field. Had beads, got pulled by powwow anyways. Just not a very good fight there from the Scarabs. Got a little sloppy, and the Leviathans took advantage.
One team fight is sometimes all it takes. It's very common in these Leviathan games. SOT's doing everything that he can to delay the inevitable, but it seems the Leviathans will be able to take game number one, kind of just bouncing that Titan back and forth for whoever is going to get it. And finally, it will go down. Just shy 25 minutes, Leviathans start out the set strong.
I love the way the Leviathans played that game. Just really played to the strong side of the map. That solo lane, playing around Yarkor, which has been a winning formula for this team for years at this point, because that guy's been an absolute monster no matter where he's playing. Just didn't love the Scarabs draft in terms of where the pressure was going to be. Didn't think they had a particularly cohesive draft in that moment. And we've seen the Scarabs bounce back after having some bad drafts, some bad game ones. This is pretty typical for this team. So if you're a Scarabs fan, I don't think the world's on fire, but definitely not the type of showing you wanted to see.
You think it's possible maybe that we even see a Camazot's first pick out of Scarabs if they're in that slot, or maybe just a ban? It seems this guy is just a menace no matter where you grab him.
Yeah, I think that he's just been doing a lot out of that solo lane in particular. Still has that flexibility to go into jungle. Definitely a ban-worthy god.
We'll see what happens in game number 2 that's coming up right after the break.
The Atlantis Leviathans start off this best-of-5 set in about perfect fashion. The Solar Scarabs have some pushback, but it's not nearly enough down the stretch. Just more consistent for the Atlantis Leviathans. A team now 2 game wins away from moving on to the Smite World Championships. And you guys at home, you can get a little piece of the Smite World Championship fun as well. Look at these jerseys. Oh, my God. Limited time jerseys. And this is very important. hrz.io/SWC merch.
All caps.
SWC merch needs to be all caps. You can still go to shop.smiteproleague.com, follow all the tabs. You can get there eventually that way. But hrz.io, all caps SWC merch is how you get these limited edition SWC merch things. Look at that Leviathan jersey. Looks amazing. The joggers look sick. The mouse pad gore might somehow be my favorite thing in all of this.
I know, because when we had the mouse pad for phase 1, 2, and 3 playoffs,
it looks so
and
good.
It was the Bologna, and
so
those
good.
were really good, but this knocks that one out of the park. Look, I love that other mouse pad, but this one is fantastic. I also didn't realize it when I first looked at it, but they've got the SWC logo on the left sleeve there, too, so, like, even better for the jersey.
Gore, is that stuff, was it white and blue, or is it black and gold? I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell.
Am I wearing black and gold or white and blue, Dave? Is your shirt?
Was the dress white and blue? Wait, were those the two options?
It was white and gold.
Oh, all right. So I
then
mixed the two up.
Black and blue.
All right.
And by the way, because of lighting, it was white and gold. Yeah. Yeah.
Nope.
No. Yes.
Black and blue. Those jerseys, though, black and gold.
Well, let's go fight right now.
And those look amazing. I'm gonna have to get my hands on some. I'm taking
for
applications from pro players for which jersey I should buy. Let's talk about game number 1 here, though, Gormizer.
Oh, man. Okay, I'll say my joke.
Okay.
I was going to say buy one of each jersey, so that way no matter what, you're right.
That's right. No matter what, I'm winning. And I'll consider that at shop.smiteproleague.com. Let's talk about game 1, though. The Atlantis Leviathans, they come out with a draft that has some unique twists on it. But one of the big pivot points in this draft was going to be how the jungle played. And you're going to see a lot of Shinto, a lot of Yarkor. But at the forefront of a lot of these clips, this is maybe a forgettable one for Panatom, dies for first blood. But Panatom played such a big role in helping set up for Shinto, helping set up for Yarkor. And yet again, the Daji at the forefront of one of these replays. So fantastic game from the damage dealers of the Leviathans. But the jungler was at the forefront of a lot of the conversation.
It's this fantastic combination. Every single one of these, save for that first blood, who do you see in front of you? There's Wrong You, there's Panatom. There's Wrong You, there's Panatom. There's Wrong You and Panatom almost always together. Even here, this one was
Wrong
actually
You and
sick
Panatom.
because Wrong You ends up eating a Neath ult for his team, so it opens up even more of that conversation to be able to continue diving. It's little things like that that really do set the Leviathans apart as a team. And I think a lot of this is the Scarabs have a draft that I think is a very solid draft, a very Scarabs draft as well. The downside is that Wrong You is playing one of his best gods in this Terra.
Yep.
And otherwise, you're also playing, like I had said during the desk, but realistically, a lot of gods that don't have any built-in CC immunity up against a Daji who is going to capitalize on that. Panatom, the 1 and 2 doesn't look that great. The 11 looks fantastic because he's everywhere. He's all across the map. He's traveling all over the place and really helping set up these kills. Hardcore, Shinto, they get to capitalize on it and have like the best looking KDAs because of it. But Panatom and Wrong You were just always around ready to help somebody out and set them up for even more.
Yeah, Wrong You at 5k damage was hovering around the damage numbers of 4 out of the 5 members of the Solar Scarabs. Camazotz now played twice this weekend for Yarkor. A combined 14, 0, and 9 for Yarkor in those 2 games. 9-0-6 in the first game up against the Winter Dogs. 5-0-3 for Yarkor on the Camazotz here in this one. Gore, admittedly, look, Camazotz has been in the conversation all year long. But I did not expect first pick Camazotz all weekend long, all week long, right? And to be looking as good as it does. now we're in the conversation of pick ban priority. If the Solar Scarabs are in that first pick slot, maybe that's something you have to give over to SOT. We will see what the priority lies in these two teams' eyes heading into P's and B's for Game 2. Solar Scarabs, they are in that first pick slot. Gore, Camazotz need to be your answer.
Now here's where things get interesting.
Yep.
And I'm gonna find the number of bans for Camazotz while I talk about it. But before this event, Camazotz was only first picked twice.
Right.
This year.
Right.
As a whole. He's been banned 29 times, and I'll find his top threes as well. But like, it's not like he's top 3 30 times, right? And that's out of 397 games up to now, or up to this week. So it's something that, like you said, it's not necessarily what you're expecting, but it has been such a pivotal point that just this week, not only has he skyrocketed in terms of where his priority has been, he's been first picked 10 times up to last game. Last game makes it 11. And now he's got 4 of 11 wins from that first pick position. So even though he's getting prioritized super highly, it hasn't always directly translated into a great performance the way we've seen some of these times. That being said, do you risk it when he's played 15 games now? You know, even though a lot of those first picks didn't come to fruition, the rest of the games did.
And Gore, you know, I think maybe a smart pivot then in the eyes of the Leviathans here, realizing that's likely a first pick for the Solar Scarabs if the Camazotz does not get banned away. The other 2 bans for the Leviathans remain the same, though. Charybdis, again, you'd think ADC, but that tends to be a Baronic pick with the Solar Scarabs team. And then Najah did well enough for Scream in back-to-back games against the Oni Warriors, despite a forgettable first effort in that set, to continue being banned out by the Atlantis Leviathans. Some wrong you-centric bans by the Solar Scarabs, Gore. Terra and Yamoja, 2 great picks to take away. That leaves open the Ganesh, though, which admittedly is interesting. When I think of wrong you, not that Ganesh can't do this, but I'm thinking of the Yamojas, the Terras, the walk you down, deal great damage, plenty of lockdown in both of those picks. Ganesh can do so, but it's through maybe a bit of a different lens, and so I still have high expectations for this pick, but it is a unique look maybe for wrong you.
And if I'm looking at this, I'll have to double check just to make sure the other day, but outside of this event, we haven't seen a Ganesh for wrong you before.
Oh, thank God.
He's never had to go that
I'm
far
right.
down. Yeah.
I'm right.
So,
yes.
So yeah, no, absolutely. I was looking for it, and I was like, come on, he's got to have played 1, right? Like everybody's got 1. No, he just doesn't touch it. And so it's going to be interesting to see how that pairs up for him, because like you said, it's a different style, but at the same time, if I'm looking at someone, a support that's in the top 5 KDAs in the league, yeah, I'm going to let Rongyu play anything he wants. If anything, this is just going to bolster those numbers a little bit more. But I also have to look at this Artio, Dave, because they've won a lot of games with the Artio. They've only lost 3 this year that they had out of it.
3.
They've only lost 3.
Man, and look,
it's an 85% win rate.
85% win rate.
For the Leviathan specifically.
Right. And that's a scary stat, right? Ardio's been so popular all year long. Maybe the numbers have normalized a little bit, closer to 50%. But still very, very strong for Yarkor. Leviathan still needing, or Solar Scarabs rather, still needing a support. So Sylvanas and Sobek, 2 picks that had been played in 2 out of 3 wins against the Oni Warriors the other day. Leviathan smart, doing their homework. On the flip side, though, we heaped praise on Panatom and Shinto after Game 1. The Solar Scarabs don't want to deal with either of the picks that those 2 players were able to play. And Medusa Gore has been a fringe topic of conversation.
Yeah.
With the changing of the ability placement on the anti-heal, now on Acid Spray. Acid Spit. I don't know. I don't want to mess that one up.
Spray.
You know which one I'm talking about.
Her 2.
Freya, though, locked in. Does this mean we're maybe looking towards a Medusa mid? Or a Freya mid?
All right, Dave, let me talk to you about some really, really old Smite things that Aggro's
please.
going to glare at me for mentioning, because there's no way this is ever going to happen. But Freya used to be played in the jungle sometimes.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way that's going to happen. I want to get that out there. But, like, in Season 1, 0, it existed.
If
before
the
item store was separated and you could get physical and magical on Freya, yeah.
Would you think if we're on the Solar Scarabs, I would be more.
No,
open.
I'm not. It's not even crossing their minds.
I'm just saying I'd be more.
I'm
open,
an idiot.
I'd be more open to the possibility of Freya jungle if it were Scream playing it. Not that Panatom can't, to be very, very clear. But he's not one who feels like reaching into the bag of tricks.
I very weirdly agree with you on that, and I kind of hate that I do. Like, I don't like the fact that I could agree with anyone playing it, but like,
if
someone's gonna do it, it would
rate,
be Scream, and it would probably look okay.
It'd probably look fine. At any rate, Medusa and Freya. One will
Yeah,
have to go
probably mid for
One will have to-
Medusa,
yeah, you'd
by
think.
the way.
You'd think. Right, that's the
That's the
original
question
topic.
you asked.
The Solar Scarabs, they stick with jungle, hunter, and mid, and 3 pick score that are pretty standard in those roles for the Solar Scarabs specifically. Erlang Shen for Scream is something that we've seen him play, a fantastic early pressure style god. Only 1 game of it in the last 6. That was a loss against the Oni Warriors. But Izanami and Tiamat are 2 picks that for Stewart and or Baronic rather respectively have looked pretty good. A different look though for inbound here, Gormizer, with the Bacchus getting locked in. You want to talk about pressure in that lane? You got an Iza and a Bacchus running down what we assume will be a Freya and Ganesh early in the lane.
Yeah, I can't think of a worse first, 5 levels for the Leviathans than what they have, right? Like, for Freya and Ganesh, their lane, they almost don't exist in that lane for 5 minutes. They're just going to have to sit there and let smite happen to them.
Right.
Ideally, Susano can come over and alleviate some of that pressure, but, Zapman's not going to be able to hit incredibly hard early on. The clear is going to be pretty easy to block if you have someone like Inbound who wants to kind of get into the wave and stop a lot of that damage from getting spread out. Izanami's got insane push already, and, normally you have something, if you go Izanami Geb, Izanami Ganesh, it offsets the fact that your support isn't going to push that hard. This is going to be a lot of pressure immediately on the Leviathans, but then you look at their late game, and it's absolutely nuts if they get there. I mean, Ganesh, Freya, Artio in the late game is enough to win most team fights in any given circumstance. Medusa and Susano, at least in that mid, the 2v2 evolving into the 3v3, should be able to do just fine on their own. I expect a lot out of those two, especially early on, but it's where they put that pressure. We talked about the 85% win rate here for Hardcore on this Artio. I'm not worried about that doing well early or late. It's going to do just fine because they do well with it consistently. It really is the duo lane right now, and we talked about Wrong Hughes stats. We saw Zapman get soloed a couple times, or maybe just the once, but definitely stumbled on this Freya in game number 1. I think this is one that they're going to be worried about it, but they're still going to be able to survive as long as they make it to a certain minute.
Right, it feels like, Gore, with the Solar Scarabs in game 1, there's a few kind of different pieces matched together. Some of the bits of that composition worked. Maybe feels a little bit more consistent top to bottom, a clear game plan for the Solar Scarabs here in game 2. I want to hear your thoughts, though, on this Achilles pick, because Achilles has been very important in the solo lane. I keep saying weekend. We're still in the week. All week long.
It's Friday. That's the start of the weekend.
It is the start of the weekend. For us, though, I don't know.
It's the middle of the week.
It's the middle. That's right. It's the middle of the week for us. The Achilles, though, has been important all event long here, Gore.
Yeah.
Is this the style of pick you expect SOT to have a good game on, an okay matchup maybe into the Sardia?
I think a lot of it is specifically for that matchup, right? That control. It's also going to help having that executed online a little bit later on, just being able to deal with someone, because, Artio is going to have some healing for the team, but for the most part, they're going to be stuck where they are, so you should be able to get that off in the middle of a team fight. Stuns, it's easy to chase people down, Freya as well as Medusa as well. Maybe not necessarily Susano, but if he uses all his cooldowns on something, you can still keep him in check. I like the look of it. We'll just have to see if he can make it through a lane phase against Hardcore.
We're expecting some fireworks in the duo lane early on in game 2 between the Scarabs and the Leviathans.
Back on the Freya here for the Leviathans. It will be going over to Zapman's hands once again. A slightly different look from Shinto, still a hunter, but this time that Medusa that's gotten a couple of recent changes to some of the ordering of her kid. You get the anti-heal on her acid spray, the lacerate, can deal damage to minions now. But I want to go back on the whole, Freya jungle thing. You've recently had to go against a Freya jungle. That wasn't too fun. It was a play test. That was not a fun game for you.
Oh, I don't remember that at all. No, I was thinking, when I think of Freya jungle, I think of when I was first climbing in ranked, season 1, in Soulshiner, playing Freya jungle was like my gatekeeper. I couldn't beat the guy, no matter what. He would just 1v9 all of our games. And that's what I was thinking about when it came to Freya jungle.
Yeah, Freya jungle, not so great this day and age. Definitely want to keep her in a lane, try and keep her as safe as possible, because let's be honest, she really doesn't have a whole lot of kill pressure for the first, 14, 15 levels of the game probably.
Yeah, it takes her a little bit of time. Really that hastened, but good start already, putting pressure on Zapman with this duo lane. And this is what I like to see from the Scarabs. I said at the end of last game that sometimes they have these compositions that don't really mesh super well, and they get off to slower starts. I like this composition a lot more than what we saw from them in game 1, because there's clear pressure over here in duo. There's clear pressure in the jungle. And you've got lanes that you can lean on. You know, you can maybe catch an RDO overextending, though that's pretty difficult. You can kill a Medusa in mid with something like Erlong Shen. You can easily kill duo lane with what you've got over there. So the Scarabs definitely have some good tools this time around.
Yarkor on this RDO, and as mentioned on the desk, an 85% win rate when he gets this god. And it wasn't only until, recent time, I say recent, I mean, we're talking, start of Phase 3 months ago, that this god really kind of came back in the meta, and Yarkor was one of the first ones to bring it there. And the fact he's sitting at 85% win rate, it's probably a reason this god rarely ever sees his hands anymore.
Yeah, it's not for lack of picks, that's for sure, when it comes to RDO and Yarkor's combination. It's just the fact that my man wins on that pick really, really often, and definitely a little bit surprised that the Scarabs were able to give it to him. But it's a testament to what Rongyu has done. You know, so many of the bans thrown his way. That's what good teams do to you. They make you give them picks that you don't want to give them, and this is just another iteration here.
Yeah, this time we get to see Rongyu's debut Ganesh here in Season 8. Another thing that kind of got brought up there is we've never seen that combo just yet. Panatom versus Scream here over at a speed buff fight. 2.5 minutes in the game, but SOT is here to make sure that Panatom has no chance of getting this buff. Scream will be able to drop that, but now it's a collapse in by the Leviathans. Yarkor goes in, a dash out by Scream, a teleport in by Panatom to try and cut off the path. The root holds him in place for just a while, and somehow Scream able to make it out of the 3.
And Shinto now in a bit of trouble. Baronic not close enough to follow up, so Shinto will end up escaping. Talk about a value out of your purification beads. I think Scream immune 3 CCs with those purification beads, and they mean that it's easy for him to get out of there. I don't know if the Leviathans thought he had blink and just hadn't pressed tab or what happened, but they definitely overlap their CC way too much. If namely Panatom just holds Wind Siphon, Scream's always dead in that situation. So a little bit of lack of patience there for the Leviathans, but Scream makes a good play to take advantage.
Yeah, it is 4 sets of purification beads here for the Solar Scares. Everybody except for Inbound, who's one of the only players on the team who doesn't. Actually, no, there's quite a few that don't have CC immunity on the team. My misstep there, but he goes for the meditation, which we've been seeing a ton of out of the supports. It seems to kind of be you either get med or you get blink these days as your support, and it seems that both supports have opted for that med.
Yeah, I think med, it's obviously very good. It's by far the best relic in lane, but I do think it falls off pretty hard, and I do think, have it, like right now, Yarkor has meditation as well. Double med, I don't think feels fantastic come the team fight stage, but it's not horrible. What would Yarkor be going anyways? It's not always easy to pick what you want over there in that solo lane. So, I don't hate seeing a lot of meditations, but I do think there's such a thing as too many, like maybe the double meditation duo lane we saw from the Bolts yesterday.
Man, we've normally been seeing fights over red buffs, fights over purples or blues. This is one of the first time ever, at least in this season, that we're seeing constant fights over the speed buff. To taunt in by Scream, a belly flop from Inbound, and the damage from the Belch and Scream's basics will be enough to take down the jungler. First blood up for the Solar Scarabs, and Zapman in danger on this left side as he's getting ran at by Stewart, but Stewart needs a few more autos and no Dark Portal to his name to try and secure the kill.
Yeah, I already used it in order to get some pressure over here, but great first blood there by the Solar Scarabs. Just taking advantage of how they're going to play the game. Shinto is never going to defend that speed in a million years. Because we want to know why. His red buff's up. And that's farm that he can go get. So he's going to go get that. And it leaves Panatom out on an island. Not great ward coverage around that. I mean, it was an easy trap set by the Solar Scarabs, and the Leviathans walk right into it. But it's such a great trap because they know how Shinto in particular wants to be playing the game. He doesn't want to help his jungler secure speed. He wants to get guaranteed farm and not split it if he can help it. And so much so that he's gone Eye of the Jungle as a starter item in order to make it that much easier for him to go and solo things like mid Harpies and his red buff. Panatom going to be pretty far behind to Scream in the jungle.
And talk about the double-headed serpent of a trap that you set up there. I mean, you have a Bacchus and an Erlong Shen. Erlong usually can do it all on his own. You get the root, the knockup. Well, then you throw another knockup and a stun, and once he hits 5 here, Intoxicate to throw about a bunch of extra damage. Gotta imagine if the Scarabs are keeping up this pressure towards speed, they just keep going at it, but so far not in a position to do so just yet.
No, but they've got time if they want to group. I mean, Solar Patrol can easily push this wave, start to rotate over. You know, inbound's already here. Rongi's actually heading to the left-hand side. Does have time to do these back harpies and then still be there in time for speed, but if I'm Panatom, I'm going, Yo, Shinto, I promise you'll get red after speed. Can we just make sure I get it?
Less than 30 seconds till it's up, and here's Scream, here's SOT, and inbound sitting in the mid lane with Baronic. They want to go for a fight. Shinto is in the midst of the tower. Yarkor's the first one to rotate over. He'll get caught out, but he'll heal up every bit of damage that he took. And maybe for the first time since its initial spawning, we'll get to see Panatom try and get that speed buff, but Scream and inbound go in. They put a ton of damage onto Yarkor. He goes down instantly. Typhoon rips through the backline, but now it's inbound who's caught in the midst of it. It's the damage out of the Susano and the dots from Shinto. They're able to take him out. Petrified does hit one, and ult in by SOT, and Wrong U is gone.
Shinto's got to dash out, and the speed buff still going to be invaded. Actually was secured somehow there by Panatom, it looked like to me, but either way, a great fight for the Leviathans, or excuse me, for the Scarabs. Again, playing aggressively in the Leviathans jungle. Yarkor looked pretty immortal at the very beginning of that fight and did a lot of sustain, but had used a lot of cooldowns, was a little bit isolated. The Ganesh ultimate didn't do quite enough there from Rongu to keep them off of Yarkor, and that full-on commit onto the RDO was the way to do it. Not often that you say that, you know, that full committing onto the RDO is the right play on that engagement, but in that situation, it worked perfectly.
And with it, the Solar Scarabs are able to pull themselves up 2,000 gold over the Atlantis Leviathans. Not a statement that many teams get to make, is getting a significant gold lead on the Leviathans less than 8 minutes into the game. And with that lead, Scream, he's got his Crusher. You have a Blackthorn. Now Scream has gone back to base to pick up that Adventurer's Blade for a little bit of extra attack speed potential. And, I mean, if this is just going to be the trend of the game, you can only imagine in the next 30, 45 seconds do the Scarabs go up to that top side one more time.
Yeah, why not? It's been working for you so far. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And you know, Zap maybe could rotate all the way over, but that's not going to feel particularly good for him at this point in the game.
Be a whoop on the inbound. He's got his belly flop if he can get out. Silence from Wrong U is holding him in place. Inbound jumps right on top of Zapman, but that'll be more than enough to get this Bacchus out for now. Inbound lives on. The Leviathans already starting to back away. Scream actually on the left side of the jungle this time around to put some poke back up against Panatom.
Poke on the inbound is pretty valuable, though, especially if he's going to try and be there for a speed buff invade. And all this pressure is just coming from the lane clear that the Scarabs have. This game plan has worked so well.
We don't care about the speed buff, says the Solar Scarabs. Gold Fury is up. Maybe we can get something. It's inbound in danger on the backside of the fight. Zapman will just run him down. And without their support, the Solar Scarabs now have to give up the gold.
Man, for 9 minutes, the Scarabs were playing so clean, but a big mistake there from inbound really sets it up.
Zapman goes aggressive on Stewart, and that is curtain calls for the Hunter. It's actually a double kill for Zapman, as the time between the inbound kill and that one was just close enough. And Leviathans are able to tie up the kills, but still a little shy on the golden XP.
And for what it's worth, a solo kill there on the Stewart. No one else did a point of damage. They got some assists for being close by, but Zap had that all under wraps, all on his own. And those are critical mistakes there, back-to-back from the duo lane from the Solar Scarabs. Inbound, zoning way too far ahead, making it easy to pick him off while his team just doesn't have the damage necessary to get that Gold Fury. And then Stewart walking back in the lane and getting soloed right away. Those are tough pills to swallow whenever you've been playing really, really well up until that point.
Shinto's Lacerate gets stopped by the Belch from inbound. Baronic is still chasing him out, but Zapman and Wrong U are waiting for inbound on the tail, and the belly flop still not quite up for inbound, but just enough damage and some zoning here by Baronic. Make sure that his support gets to walk out.
Yeah, very good stun. Maybe saves inbound's life, though. Bobby's pretty tanky at this point already. Bacchus pretty much always really tanky. The tankiest god in the game because of his damage mitigation on the passive and on getting those protections from Chug as well.
Instead of the speed buff, they're going over towards the purple on this left side. Double taunt in by Scream. Dharmic Pillar from Wrong U to zone them away. And an ultimate rips through by Panatom. Finds two, but not a whole lot of damage from him.
Wow.
Instead, it's a whole lot of damage on him. Inbound. Gets the final shot. Shinto gets some good damage, but Stewart picks up the second kill of the fight. A few members of the Scarabs very low, but they come out with two quick picks.
Man, the duo lane comes up big after those big mistakes they made. They redeemed themselves beautifully. What a flop in from inbound, sets up an awesome dark portal coming from Stewart, and Panatom and Zap just get absolutely flattened by that engagement. Just no shot to turn it around, not nearly enough damage in the world in order to start a fight being that far down in the HP department and still be able to come back and win it. Valkyrie's discretion was still on cooldown as well, so Zapman feeling a lot less useful than he would like to on that Freya.
Panatom being bullied at his speed buff yet again, but this time it's just SOT. 2 levels up over Yarkor, but might still need to even be careful here. 3 members to try and rotate to get a kill onto SOT. Stuns Panatom and chunks through a ton of his health. But the Wind Siphon is beadsed out here by the solo laner. But he's going to go right back in, blinks past them, and eliminates him. SOT with a 1v3 kill.
And now Scream's coming in looking for Yarkor. The cripple's good, but Yark's in serious trouble.
He got a lot of health back there from that heal. And now with Shinto waiting in tow, it's a 2v3 at this tier 1 tower. SOT will get poked up here by Yarkor. But Yarkor's the one who probably still needs to be careful as inbound is waiting around the corner.
Good silence coming from Wrongview, but no shot. They've got the damage to kill this Bacchus. Solo or Troll, what a turnaround there. I mean, he plays that fight mechanically perfectly. Nothing he could have done better with his spacing, the timing on the beads, the way he uses the ultimate to escape, and then turning around, preloading the combat dodge in order to then blink past and do it that way. That was unbelievable from SOT. This is absolutely perfect. This reaction on the Wind Siphon is absolutely nuts. Waits for his buttons to come back up, knows his opportunity. I mean, that's as clean as it gets.
Just nice and easy kill for SOT. Another day of the week in the solo lane for the Solar Scarabs. 4,000 gold up now, 12 minutes in the game, getting close to that 13, 6-3. Probably the most stark of all of those stats, 7,000 experience that the Solar Scarabs have up. It's 3 levels in solo, 3 levels in jungle, even pretty much everywhere else across the board, about a half level to a level separating the rest of them. But you want to talk about pulling up elite here, Scream and SOT doing a lot of work here with the Scarabs.
And this is the type of game that if you're the Scarabs, you have got to win this. You know, you cannot afford to lose this game from this point. And again, in a best of 5 against a team of the Leviathans caliber, you have to be able to convert. And namely, you do that by not taking any fight that does not involve your Achilles. Every single fight from here on out from the Scarabs, Solar or Troll should be there because he's a huge part of why they would win.
I want to go for a fight up against SOT, but look at the damage SOT put back to Panatom all by his lonesome. Panatom's at 10% health under the tier 1 tower trying to back, and with Scream rotating over, there's nothing else the Leviathans can do. SOT is swinging, man.
Yeah, he's doing a ton of damage for level 14 on this Achilles. Just went and bought a full shifter shield, basically, off that reset. So now he's going to be dealing even more damage when he's healthy, get even tankier whenever he's low. Love that purchase. Don't see it a ton, but I think in game states like this where you're very ahead, this can be very good.
Zapman will W key at Stewart. Dark Portal goes through. Zapman has to use the Valkyrie's discretion to get the kill, but at Stewart gets just enough lifesteal, and because of that, Zapman is the one who goes down off a rotation from Scream. Stewart, perfect ages to keep him alive.
Yeah, easy bait there from Stu, and got Zap's beads as well. Zap just didn't use that Valkyrie's discretion in time in order to avoid the Dark Portal because he knew he needed the auto attacks, and that makes it so that Stewart ends up getting, even if he would have traded his life 1 for 1 in that situation, it's good, but to allow Scream to come in and get that cleanup kill is absolutely huge. Scream did pre-beads, expecting a banish in that moment, so he is pretty vulnerable now, but with the type of lead the Scarabs have, that shouldn't matter much.
And that's going to get even further here. Gold Fury goes down to the Solar Scarabs, 5,500 gold, creeping up now towards that 8,000 experience that they've got here. Solar Scarabs have come out swinging here in game number 2, put themselves up a huge lead. And a lot of it off the back of Scream and SOT on that right side of the map to get them going.
And that Susano has looked really good. Oath looked very good on it yesterday up against the Jade Dragons. Panatom has obviously had an iconic Susano during his career in the SPL, but it has its weaknesses. You know, it looks really unstoppable at times. When that character gets the ball rolling, he looks absolutely insane. But in game states like this, where, you know, what is he really supposed to do? He lost a couple of speeds right off the rip and has ever since just been getting gunned down in his jungle. And Solar Troll and Scream have really been willing to take the fight to him. think the Scarabs have done a great job neutralizing this pick for Panatom.
I mean, it was, what, 3-4 separate speed buffs, and, well, we get to see another, well, now it's a 2v1 with Scream coming through here. Zapman had no chance in winning that fight. Perfect bait out of Stewart, and a rotation from Scream gets another kill on the Leviathan's Hunter and puts Zapman even further behind, now 2 levels down on this Freya.
Yeah, the last one, you know, mistake, but defensible. That one, I think, is Zap with poor fight selection again. I mean, no ward coverage at all on that left-hand side. Clearly no one had seen Scream. So he wasn't checking for that necessarily. And honestly, even without Scream, I don't know that he was going to win that fight. It didn't look like it was going to be an easy win for him because Stewart was starting to really swing and had a really good Dark Portal again. So Zap may be trying to force it a little bit too much. It feels like the game might be slipping away from the Leviathans whenever you start seeing decision-making like that.
And if you're the Leviathans and you're down a combined 6 levels on one side of the map, another 5 levels when you're looking at the opposite end in the duo lane here. I mean, what's kind of that point where, or what is it that they have to do to even try and get back in this game?
I mean, God, you're down 3 levels in both of your side lanes now. Zap's level 14, Stewart level 17. You got to fight around Shinto because he's the only one who's close to his lane opponent. And he's pretty strong right now. Going Crusher, Trans into Titan's Bane means that he's going to be hitting pretty hard with both autos and abilities. So it's not impossible for the Leviathans, but it's 3 levels in support, 2.5 in solo, 2.5 in jungle, 2.5 in ADC. From this point, the Leviathans have to capitalize on a Scarab's mistake, which, as we said earlier, has been known to happen. So it certainly could be the case, but if the Scarabs play it clean, this one should be theirs.
Pyromancer goes down cleanly for the Scarabs, and now on the Fire Giant inbound, distracting 3 on the top side, but Panatom is routing himself towards the bottom end of this engagement. Inbound, falling low, inbound, does have the belly flop, so he'll make it out of there. Very risky play by the Scarabs. They do manage to keep their support alive.
Yeah, just barely, and that would have been a pretty bad start to the mid to late game scenario there for the Solar Scarabs, but Bacchus will let you get away with a lot when it comes to your positioning and how aggressive you can be. So in that sense, it makes a lot of sense for Inbound and his play style.
Yeah, it's not often your support gets to walk up to 3 players and still make it out of a situation like that, even with 10% health. But level 15 on the Bacchus, now he has his Bulwark, which he didn't have during that last fight. So if it was already tough killing this Bacchus, good luck now that he gets a shield once he drops below that 40% threshold.
And it's going to mean that he's a lot tankier to Zapman. That was kind of the hope, is that maybe Zap can do enough damage, but you know, Zap doesn't go pen very early in this build if he's going for the same one as last game, so he's a ways away from getting penetration. And against a Bulwark and a Pridwin and a Thebes, 3 items with magical protection and a lot of HP from the Thebes and from the Bulwark, I do not see a world where Zapman can actually deal significant damage to Bacchus.
Yeah, it feels like Zapman's going to have to get to 6 full items before he ever really starts doing anything to inbound. Scream will walk up against 3. The taunt is beads out by Shinto. Panatom throws out the Typhoon, but Scream is just fine, and so is inbound in the midst of this Dharmic Pillars. Instead, it's SOT doing the damage to everyone else in the backline. It's going to be 1 down quickly. SOT grabs
Great
Panatom.
flop.
Immediately into the backline goes Scream. He'll pick up Shinto, but not before he goes down to Yarkor. 4 versus 3 now for the Scarabs in mid.
They do get a shutdown onto Scream, so that's big, but still, the Solar Scarabs just throwing their muscle around, and that's exactly what you should be doing when you've got a lead like this. Take fights. Don't just let the Leviathan sit around and farm. Take the fight to them. And the Scarabs position aggressively. Scream gets a really nice taunt. Good patience from him. Shinto just backpedaling a little bit too much and still ends up getting caught in it. And that's just the Scarabs leveraging their lead. The Leviathans had pretty good target selection, landed their abilities. You know, they were in an okay position. Solar Scarabs are just outright stronger right now, and that was the difference maker.
Hey, you want to talk about a game that's just kind of happening around Baronic. I mean, no discredit to him. He's been putting out damage. He's 0-0-4 right now on this Tiamat. But it seems that he's just been getting to kind of chill out here in mid lane while the rest of the fight happens on the map.
Hey, he's helped grow this lead. His rotations over to speed were important, but you're right. These are the easy games in mid, wherever both of your side lanes are dominating. You know that they can't pressure you because they just need to stay alive on their side lanes. You know no one's going to rotate to you. So you can just kind of scale and get to the late game. And that's perfect on a pick like Tiamat because that's where she wants to be anyways. Baronic definitely has not lit it up. I mean, he's bottom of his team in player damage, but hasn't needed to. Just where he's walked has helped facilitate this lead.
And one stun here to get somebody out. One minion thrown out here to create a little bit of space. Baronic, as I said, 0-0-4, now has his Obsidian Shard picked up here for the 4th item. So he's nearly getting close to that full build point on this Tiamat. Opposite side here, Shinto still hasn't been able to pick up his 4th item. And we'll talk about kind of rounding out builds. It's a full Kinsai for Scream, and Panatom just now gets his Serrated Edge online.
Yeah, he's a full item down right now in the jungle, and Susano, you know, from ahead you can do a lot, but from behind you do not feel like you're dealing damage. He still has good CC, which is always good to have as a character, but not going to be putting out that 100-0 damage anytime soon.
Ward coverage, where's it at for the Leviathans? It's not on the Fire Giant. You do see Yarkor rotating over, but that Fire Giant is as good as gone. Solar Scarabs pick up the biggest neutral objective on the map for basically free.
No one there, and Leviathans are probably right to not be there, but Inbound cannot get caught here.
Inbound silenced out, pulled in by Panatom, thrown up in the sky by Rongyu, who used the Intoxicate to get an extra Pridwin shield. The rest of his team is not there to help him out. Panatom finally able to put a kill on the board, but all the while, the Scarabs pushing up that right side of the map. They take both of those towers in the right lane.
I mean, look, it costs the Leviathans a lot to kill Inbound there. It's 3 ultimates, it's a Frenzy, it's a Beads from Shinto. But at the same time, the Scarabs don't get a Phoenix. They trade out a couple of towers. They lose a member with Fire Giant. You know, that slows their push down pretty significantly. Definitely a positioning mistake there from Inbound. There's just no reason at all to be there. You can be not right next to your teammates and still be getting information, getting vision, that kind of stuff. Be somewhere where your teammates can help you. And that play goes a lot better because of how long he lives. Definitely a big mistake there from Inbound that has taken a lot of time off the clock of this Fire Giant push.
And what was this massive experience deficit between all these players that in the blink of an eye here, now just about everybody on Leviathans have hit level 20, so now you have at least all of your base scalings out there. It's really just those items that are starting to make a difference, but Shinto's gone back, he's picked up Dominance. It's mostly Panatom who's kind of still behind here in the jungle.
Yeah, and he's got Bumba's Spear. You know, he's starting to get closer and closer to that big damage spike. I mean, as soon as he finishes Heartseeker, he's going to be fine. He's going to be dealing plenty of damage.
Whoop onto SOTs. That man is throwing basics at him, but they're not doing a whole ton of damage just yet. SOT groups up with 2 more of his Scarab teammates. They'll take out the left tier 2 tower. And now a rotation over towards mid. It's SOT at the front line inbound, sitting over by the door while Scream is doing what he can to start pushing these minions up to get ready to take the last tower, or maybe just distract the Leviathan so the rest of the team can take a Phoenix.
Stewart will make pretty quick work of this Phoenix, and remember, the waves won't matter to him because he can just use those autos anyways as they pass through. So definitely going to be a tough wire to balance on here for the Leviathans. Don't think you need to defend this tier 2. It's already gone. You only have to worry about a minute and 20 seconds on this FG push. If they can handle that, they might be able to stall it out a bit longer.
Phoenix took about 1/3 of its health earlier on. It's healed some of that back up. SOT under the Phoenix. He'll be the one to tank it up while the rest of the team moves in. Stewart starting to pepper some damage in, but it's a tornado and a big stun that comes through. Frenzy is popped. Dharmic Pillars and a triple belly flop out of Inbound. Takes out one. Rongyu falls down, but not before we at least get a triple through here for the Solar Scarabs. The Phoenix still stands, and it's a 3 down versus the 1.
They tried to do the exact same play, focus the Bacchus, but it's obviously a lot worse whenever the whole team is still right there next to him. Zap in trouble.
Zapman surrounded by 3, knocked up and knocked down. Scream is the one who takes him out, and it's just Yark the Shark to try and hold them out. But one lone RDO is not going to stop 4 strong in the Solar Scarabs. They're going to take game number 2 and get themselves a little bit closer to the World Championships.
Scarabs have woken up. Didn't take them 2 games this time, only 1 for them to get right back in the driver's seat. And I think that their decision to go with that whole pressure composition, namely in the duo lane, but over there in the solo lane as well. I mean, constant speed buff invades really paid off there, clearly, because Solar Patrol was massive, Scream was massive, and it just became impossible to stop them. So I think in the next game for the Leviathans, focusing on making sure we've got a little bit more pressure. You know, you think that you should have pressure at mid with the Medusa versus the Tiamat, but still wasn't able to affect those fights at all. Picking up higher pressure jungler for Panatom, something along those lines, but overall, you just got to tip your hat to the Scarabs. They came in with a really good game plan with this draft and executed it really well.
I mean, Panatom essentially didn't get a play for pretty much the entire first half, maybe first 3 quarters of that game.
Yeah.
And by the time he was able to come through and try and make an impact, it was already too little too late. Solo Scarabs come up 1-1 to start out this set. We'll take it to game 3 right after.
money world.
We have got us a set here after the Solar Scarabs find their way back in game number 2. And this one is convincing. The Solar Scarabs now find themselves 2 wins away in this set from going confirmed to the Smite World Championship official bracket. And when is that all happening? Well, of course, it's happening January 5 through 9. An action-packed 5 days of all things hi-rez, and then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. What is that? 7, 8, and 9 of January. The Smite World Championship main bracket will officially kick off with quarterfinal, semifinal, and then grand finals on January the 9th. But before that, we got a great day of content and fun on Throwback Thursday, and then hi-rez presents and a whole bunch of stuff highlighting the upcoming year. All things hi-rez on the Wednesday before that. Lots to look forward to, not only for the rest of this weekend, but in just a couple weeks' time. That is wild to me, Gore, to think that, what is that, 3 weeks away?
Oh,
I can officially,
don't say it like that.
I can pull up the calendar on these Alienware PCs and see that week on my screen now.
Because I guess if you think about it, right, there's this week, which is placements.
Right.
Next weekend is Christmas.
Yep.
Weekend after that would be New Year's, and then Worlds right there.
It Worlds and the hi-rez showcase week will officially kick off 3 weeks from this past Wednesday. We're in the midst of it 3 weeks from now.
Everything just got a little more real for me,
Just
actually. It felt a little more crunched.
We've got a lot more games to go through this week before we get there, though, and then we get to decompress for a little while. At least 2 more games here in this set after the Solar Scarabs find a good win in Game 2.
Yeah, and honestly, it's one of those where it's like, oh, late game Leviathans, maybe they could look really good. They never got to the point where they got to look really good. I think that shut down early from the Scarabs, the control from them was great. You could start to see the bounce back, like what aspects of the Leviathans could win fights, but it didn't come fast enough for them. I mean, when you're up against a team with Fire Giant, and that's when you're starting to like pick up some of the kills that you've been lacking, it's a little too late most of the time. You get a great game out of Solar Troll, and he goes with his nice 6.0. Yeah, I mean, he absolutely ran the show over there in the long lane and made this Achilles look really good. I wasn't sure how it was going to come through, but now I'm actually worried about it. And this was a 9th pick. This wasn't even like high priority for them.
Right.
This is something I wouldn't mind seeing him go back to.
Yeah, Sot continues to be one of the forefronts of conversation of this Solar Scarabs team. And a nice play there from Inbound. And the Bacchus pick is something we were worried about in lane, Gore. I wouldn't say that the duo lane necessarily spiraled one way or another for the Scarabs or for the Leviathans. But as the game went on, outside of that one individual play where Inbound got picked off, it felt pretty good for Inbound on the Bacchus. And then Scream was the guy setting all of it up. The Erlong Shen, you expect it to be active early, and that's exactly what Scream did here.
And, active not just early, but like really, really all across the map, showcasing where that pressure could be put. I mean, 6-1-6 has a phenomenal game out of the jungle, and realistically puts pressure where pressure needs to go. Who did we worry about the most at the beginning of the game, and who would be the scariest if they got to their late game? Right. Well, Panatom, early on, he's going to be a big threat. He goes 1-5. Zatman, late game, he's going to be a big threat, but his early game's easy and susceptible. He goes 3-4. I think they just put a lot of good pressure on the Leviathans and kind of took away the carries that they had that they needed to get to those essential moments for them. And I mean, a game like that where it wasn't exactly as precise as the Scarabs would want, but it still ends up in the exact same way, right? A couple of like slip-ups where things maybe unfortunately don't go their way, like the Fire Giant.
Right.
Inbound ends up dying in mid. They only get a tower instead of Phoenix. Boo-hoo, because afterward they end up coming back with their Surgeons. I just think that the team played that really well. Again, kind of good attention to the map and good picks. It showcases, again, their adaptability from game to game and how to handle things that previously went wrong for them.
And Gore, I don't think it can be understated, and I'm glad we talked about the jungle a little bit here. Can't be understated that it's not often that Panatom goes like 1-5.
No.
You know, I mean, this is not an easy player to almost completely remove from the game. Remember the Daji game that we heaped praise on Panatom for in Game 1? He was 1-2 but had 11 assists. We were talking about how, despite low kills, the Daji was still providing a lot of setup. This game was totally different. There's still 1 kill, but it's Panatom completely mitigated by the way that the Solar Scarabs were playing.
And speaking of Panatom, specifically looking at what was Phase 3, he had 20 kills higher than anybody else, right? Like, I mean, he's absolutely a menace. The lowest KDA that the Leviathans had in Phase 3 was Zapman with a 2.7. So, like, this team does well and does well a lot. Getting anyone to go negative is a huge deal. So I think the Scarabs are going to be able to capitalize on that. But this is where things get a little more interesting to me, because now we can see that they've swapped sides again. And it is worth remembering that it is loser's pick as to which side you go on. Leviathans had a really good time when they were first picked, and that forces the Scarabs to change up how they're banning. Last time it was Hell, Terra, Yamoja. You know, something's going to make it through. Something's going to get priority picked for the Leviathans.
Yeah, so is it Camazotz that you let through again for your core? Or do you let Terra in for Wrong You?
Or the Erlang Shen for Panatom.
Or the Erlang Shen. So Terra gets banned out. Let's see if the Leviathan snap lock the Camazotz, because that looked fantastic for hardcore in game number 1. It is a snap lock indeed. Erlang Shen gets banned out by the Leviathans here. But also with Charybdis and Naja, those 2 picks have just not been allowed to see any play. Team Izanami might make some sense here, Gore. That was the duo of carries in the Solar Scarabs win. And with this, you're not revealing too much on how you want to play. So you're going to go ahead and cross off 2 of maybe the most important picks in your team and get 2 of your players who have been playing pretty well here recently onto some comfort picks then for themselves. This Freya is interesting now, though. 33% win rate this week in Group A so far, 1 out of 3 games. The Freya and the Uller looked all right for the Leviathan, so it looks like, Gore, now both teams opting for the composition that's worked for them in each of their wins.
And I like that you look at this, and if this is a solo lane pick, it'd be really funny. Like, if this is the Achilles that gets locked in, it'd be very funny to me, because you look at the Leviathans, they've got solo, they've got mid, they've got carry, they've got the pillars across the map, right? And it gives you a little bit of leeway. Yes, this opens up specifically Wrong You to have a couple more bans thrown their way. And you know, if I'm thinking about it, like Leviathans, if Inbound doesn't pick up something like a Sylvanas right here, which, first off, Sylvanas Izanami would be absolutely gross.
Good eye there, Gore.
But, you know, you need something that gives pressure. And so Leviathans aren't necessarily the team I think of when I think Sylvanas, but if I want to pair something with the Freya, I mean, Horus is another pick that we've seen if you're looking for something physical. Either way, I think that this is going to open them up to be a little more compartmentalized, I guess, like isolated in their support picks.
It's going to have to at least be something a little different from the Game 1 composition that worked for the Leviathans. It was Uller for Shinto, Freya for Zapman, Camazotz for Hardcore in Game 1. But it was Daji for Panatom, and Wrong You was on Terra that game. So at least those 2 picks are going to have to be different, but maybe the core of that team still feels pretty good. Solar Scarabs, in the meantime, still have the opportunity outside of the Erlang Shen, which has been banned away from Scream, and now the Bacchus. So both teams are realizing that one another, the composition that worked so well against us, maybe fringed around some of the support and the jungle picks a little bit later on. And so the support and jungle picks that worked in the wins for both of these 2 teams have been banned away, at least in the first or second couple of waves here. The only 2 options, of course. So you're going to have to change some things up here, Gore. Solar Scarab still with a lot of viability. Scream is such a difficult jungler to predict, just because of some of the picks that he finds viable. We've seen some Naja, Kali, which still available if that's something that Scream wants to run on back. Gilgamesh has been important for Scream this year as well. It depends if you want to take support or jungle here, how much you're going to reveal, how much you want to save for that last pick.
I mean, I kept talking about him. It's something that Inbound looks really good on. As a dual lane, it would be kind of gross. Synergies maybe where you run it, but Sylvanas has been a huge pick for them.
Yep.
And I think it would be fun to watch. I also have to correct myself, because while I was looking specifically for the run rate of Sylvanas on the Leviathans, because they played it a few times this year, but not a lot, they have played one whole Ganesh game.
They have.
And I feel bad that I found it now.
Do you know if it was a win or a loss? I'm going to send you back down the rabbit hole, Gore. I'm sorry.
It was a win.
It was a win. Okay.
It was a win.
I was going to say, at
So
least
now
it
they're
was a
1-1.
loss. There was a reason we would have forgotten about it, but it was a win earlier in the year for wrong you on the Ganesh. Mercury, though, for Scream. And it said 0% pick rate because the only guy who's played it is over in Group B, and that's Sanford Soccer. So the first pick here in Group A on the Mercury will be Scream. And so we've seen what Sanford Soccer can do on this pick, Gore. Scream deserves every ounce of respect, I think, in this conversation. Can he perform on this pick? Of course. Is Mercury good, though? I think ends up being the question, or is it just the guys who are piloting it?
Okay, that was going to be an interesting question. I think his most recent buff, specifically Made You Look now being able to go through walls, is actually a huge deal for him, and that opens him up to be a lot more consistent. Is he good? I mean, you got to look at specifically what Scream likes to play. I go back to that Kali. She's a perfect example because I think they follow a very similar route, which is that late game they're absolutely a nuisance, and if they get their early game off the way they want, then all of a sudden they hit this late game carry potential. But Mercury, I think, does it a lot more consistently early on. Kali can be very feast or famine. If you start to fall behind, it's very difficult to get back in. But Sonic Boom, Made You Look, all are really, really good capabilities to just keep the fight going. Of course, you've got your dash, your special delivery to be able to grab somebody and pull them back into it. I think he's got a lot more utility to make sure that things continue to go their way. Well, he might not have the same survivability because he doesn't have that death immunity. He also hits like a truck, so in the right circumstances and with the right comp around him, which I think so far this is, he should have a good time.
High expectations for Scream on this pick as well. In the meantime, Fafnir for Wrong and Nemesis for Panatom will be the two picks. Fafnir a little less surprising. Gore have not seen a lot of this pick recently. Feels a little bit tried and true, though, right? A pick that you might always feel comfortable going back to, and like you're not overextending yourself, trying anything too crazy. And then the Kuzumbo, that one game played was one game for Inbound in their win up against the Oni Warriors, and so a little bit of uniqueness to round out the draft for both these teams.
And honestly, the Nemesis is the one that maybe catches me off guard the most, but only because it takes me back, I guess, a little bit. We haven't seen Panatom run this as much, and usually it hasn't been that successful for them in the past. I mean, it's not necessarily been atrocious. They don't have a lot of games played on it, so it's not necessarily a feast or famine. It's just kind of in that weird, unknown middle ground. But you've got a Tiamat, you've got an Achilles, you've got Kuzumbo. Who was a problem last time around? Well, Achilles was absolutely a thorn in your side. Nemesis helps you kill them a little bit better. Tiamat, a little bit tankier of a mid laner. Nemesis helps you kill that. But when I look at this, I once again kind of harken back, maybe not to the same like Daji style of play, but I don't expect Panatom to necessarily be the one getting all the kills. It'll be nice if he does, but I look at this Camazotz and Uller again, and I think that's exactly what they're trying to play through. Get zapped to the late game. Fafnir ideally can sustain him there. Then you've got a Coerce, Uller, and Freya. That feels good. Camazotz, who should be able to perform the way we've seen Hardcore play on it. And Nemesis is just going to kind of slow people down, keep them engaged, and either look for some of the carries or set up these tanks to fall down. So really, it is this kind of puzzle piece to make sure everything else falls in place.
No, that's something we talked about in the pregame segment with the Atlantis Leviathans. Feels like the type of team where you can set up for almost any of the 5 players to have a great game. Doesn't always have to be Panatom, doesn't always have to be Shinto, just happens to be them more often than not. Something jump out at you there, Gore?
Well, yeah, I said it's something that falls in the middle, like bizarre area for me. Panatom's got a 100% win rate on Nemesis.
Yeah, but look.
He's only played it 3 times, though. See, there's where the bizarre middle ground comes, Dave. I got you.
Nem in general might be this bizarre middle ground.
Very much.
More often than not, Panatom is going to make these styles of picks.
They just do a lot of winning. It's not fair if I go look at their set. Like, yeah, a god they played twice is going to have a good win rate. It's the Leviathan.
Of course, and they're going to, more often than not.
He's played Loki twice and has 2 wins. Woo.
Really? Only twice?
Unless something got deleted, which now I kind of want to check.
Might get banned out against him a lot. Gore, talk to me about this final pick here for the Solar Scarabs. The Kuzumbo worked in game 3 up against the Oni Warriors for Inbound. Great disruption for Inbound. Do you think it rounds out the draft nicely here for the Solar Scarabs?
Honestly, a lot of this feels like it is what you would expect, right? Mercury has a lot of setup, but is a hyper carry. You've got Izanami, who Stuart's been absolutely rocking it with. You've got the Achilles, who last game had a really good game. Put all those together, and now you get Tiamat, who has knockups, roots, and really good setup, and then you get Kuzumbo, who's got a lot of knockups and, well, I guess the push. A lot of good setup that comes through from him. So I think this is going to be a lot of control. The dual lane's going to be very interesting early on because of Freya. I think the Scarabs have a lot of control.
Winner of this one game away from the Smite World Championship quarterfinals. Leviathans and Scarabs, game 3.
a lot of the core from kind of both of the winning drafts from these teams coming back here in Game 3, Aggro. I mean, you get the Uller, Freya, Camazotz that we saw in Game 1 from the Leviathans. You get the Izanami, the Tiamat, and then SOT back on the Achilles here for the Scarabs. In a big Game 3, I mean, now we see Panatom going to Nemesis, not really that common. Scream going to Mercury, also not very common.
Yeah, a little surprised to see Panatom go Nemesis up against the Mercury in particular, because Nemesis, as we all know, slow base. You know, all of her CC is a slow. Scream can just press 2 and cleanse himself of all slows instantly. So I like that matchup quite a bit for the Mercury. You just save your dash for the shield. If you can just blink on her or ult on top of her, you should win that basically every time. I don't know how Panatom is going to pilot this, you know, where he's going to look to get his pressure, but I do not think it'll be searching for Assassin 1v1s.
Your core losing this poke battle, but fortunately has some minions standing by, so SOT can't go too aggressive up against him. It's a double stun out of Baronic in the mid lane against Shinto and Panatom. But inbound, a level 2 gank over towards this mid lane. They might not even need him. Panatom is here, but the push is good only onto 1. Panatom needs a little bit of extra damage on him, but they can't find it. Baronic, though, does manage to squeak by with that stun on the tower. First blood up to the Scarabs.
I was going to say, man, there is no world in which Panatom should get away in this situation. He has to die right there, and he just doesn't respect the rotation from inbound. Surely Rongyun with Zapman said that he could be coming mid. Don't know why they were so far pushed up, being in blink dash range. You know, if he's going to max range dash you off the blink, you can always blink in response, but that was an easy setup there for Scream. Good timing on it for sure, but I'm just surprised the Leviathans were there with what I'm assuming should be a call from Duo that inbound was on the way.
And again, here in now Game 3, it's all about putting Panatom down. Now, last game it was constant invades over by the speed buff. This time it's just a kill up in mid lane. But now that Scream has that lead up over the jungler, do you think they just keep putting that pressure on Panatom, or maybe force him to one of these other lanes and try and deny him some farm?
I mean, that was the game plan in the last game, was be on Panatom's speed constantly and take him out of the game entirely. I don't know that they've got as much easy speed buff invade potential in this game as they did in the last, but surely some more pressure on this right-hand side.
Who cares about his speed? What if we can just catch him out in the middle of the jungle instead? They try and go for him at the back Harpy camp, but they don't find the stun, that being SOT. Instead, the Scarabs will just go towards a blue buff, steal that one away, and make Yarkor a little bit less mana savory here. Some damage from the Vampire Badge just off the mark by them. And it'll go back to a state of parity for these two teams. And all that gold lead that the Scarabs got from that first blood is gone. They were up like almost 700 gold, and now it's back to almost dead even.
Yeah, just the nature of clearing your jungle in the way that the Leviathans did. I mean, there's still a lot of farm up on the map for the Scarabs, so they'll be able to go back to being in the lead a little bit at the very least, sooner rather than later. But don't forget the last game, you know, it wasn't just these speed buff invades, it was speed and blue, and keeping Yarkor down and taking Yarkor out of the game as a win condition. Already starting with that exact same style here, keeping him out of his own blue buff, keep consistently putting some pressure on him. I really love the way the Scarabs are playing the right side of the map.
Over onto the left side, you know, inbound back on this Kuzenbo, a pick that usually is kind of just reserved for Neilma. He's usually he was up until really this point the only support picking this god up, but inbound tried his hand at it yesterday, found success, and trying his hand at it again here today in another Game 3, funny enough, to see if he can find some success for the Scarabs.
Yeah, I mean, it's usually very good against auto attackers because of your shell spikes and how you're incentivized to build thorns, so you can have that kind of double dip mentality on that same type of dive. It can certainly be strong.
Sonic Boom by Scream finds Zapman, but a quick beads may not be enough to save his life. Scream blinks under the tower, and the mage you look will make sure that Zapman goes down. A second kill up for the Scarabs, this time on the jungler.
Really impressive, really on a lot of ends there. Scream's ultimate, frame perfect. It doesn't stay in the lane too long, just pokes his head out, puts himself right behind Zapman, which is exactly where he wants to be. Zap never even got CC'd by the Sonic Boom. He actually pre-beads it, which is very difficult to do when you don't expect to see it coming, and I don't think Scream stepped on a ward, but even with those really good beats, Zap's only level 4, and that makes that gank really well timed. Well done there from Scream.
Another buff invade, this time the purple buff. stripped away by the Solar Scarabs. Wrong U has to sit by and watch as Inbound and Stewart walk away with the prize of above. Zapman now level 5, so now he does have access to that Valkyrie's Discretion. Wrong U, though, doesn't have his Draconic Transformation available to him at the moment. Still needs a little bit more experience. And Shinto will finally go back to base and pick up his first time. It's going to be Transcendence from him yet again in mid.
Yeah, as expected, you want to get the stacking on the Uller, so that makes total sense. I think that, you know, the Scarabs showing really good map play right now is exactly what you want to see from them. And it's also so versatile. You know, they're not being one-dimensional. It was last game centered around the Soul Lane. They go to Soul Lane to start off, get a buff invade there, but then they gank duo, they get a buff invade there. And it really makes it hard if you're the Leviathans to know where Scream's going to be next.
So T used both of his dashes, has to use the ult to try and get away. Slow after slow after slow. A Sonic Boom will not save him. Yarkor comes up finally for the Leviathans to get a kill up against the Scarabs and put SOT down.
Good timing there from Panatom, knowing that Solar Patrol doesn't have beads, only has that blink, and as long as he overlaps his slows or doesn't overlap his slows properly, like he did there, you're going to be fine.
Blink push from Inbound, but Zapman finds a double whoop, and that will be more than enough to keep this Freya alive. Great timing by him, maybe a little bit less great positioning by Inbound to be staying right next to Stewart for that whoop.
Yeah, I think Stu maybe spaces that a little bit better, but overall, I don't think there's a lot of kill potential there on the Zap. Not unless he's, you know, very, very greedy with his ultimate cooldown, but can't imagine that would have been the case. So, you know, don't get a whole lot out of that blink, but that's all right. Still trying to keep the mental pressure on the Zapman there.
Well, the Solar Scarabs grab one of their favorite small objectives, that being the Draugr for Stewart here. Back towards the purple buff for Wrong U and Zapman. They want to clear this out. It's Ring of Akate first this time by Zapman, so it's not going to be the Hasten Ring that he's been maxing out or prioritizing early on like Game 1 and Game 2. This time he switches it up.
Yeah, I wonder if he just feels like he hasn't been able to leverage that spike well enough, particularly in this matchup. He just played it in the last game, so you know, you expect to know exactly what was going on in that game and how he couldn't use that hasten to the fullest effectiveness. So maybe he feels like he needs that Hikate in order to try and keep the lane a little bit more balanced.
Scream goes in, Sonic Boom finds just Shinto, but he's met instantly by Wrong U and an ultimate out of Panatom. Scream falling low, Scream going down. Panatom picks up the kill, a leap in against Baronic. Wrong U does find the stun, but needs a little bit more damage afterwards. Luckily he's got Zapman right behind him to get him with the Valkyrie's Discretion.
Panatom looking for Stewart, and Stu gonna turn around and drop the Dark Portal on Wrong U. The jukes end up paying off a little bit too much. On the other side, the Leviathans able to clean wipe that team fight 3-0 and able to grab a nice little gold lead off the back end of it. And it all starts with Scream just with some poor fight selection on that red buff. Baronic's in a position that he can never help. You know, Shinto's got relics. He's healthy going into that fight. No reason to force it. Scream forces it a little bit too much and ends up really paying off on the other end.
All that slow immunity is great until you, well, have nowhere left to run. I mean, he got surrounded as soon as he finished off with that Sonic Boom. And now Scream down 1-1, same as opposition 1-1, but there's 3 assists to Panatom's name. Transcendence almost fully stacked here for Shinto, just a couple more there, and then going in towards his next item, Penetration. You think maybe a Yone's Wrath or a Crusher are probably the option for him here?
Yeah, I think I'd probably be going Crusher. You just want that attack speed really badly. It does feel really good to go from 0% cooldown to 30% really quickly because he just finished Transcendence stacking. And then if you buy Jotuns, all of a sudden you've got tons of cooldown available to you really quickly. And that can be kind of hard to play around on the other side where you're expecting his cooldowns to be a bit longer. But Crusher just too efficient, I think, on Uller. I think I want that basically as soon as I can.
3 versus 2 by the purple buff. Zapman will pop the pulse and the irradiate to get some damage up against Inbound. He's getting quite a bit of it. Water Grave expended into Valkyrie's Discretion in response to get some damage back. And now with Panatom over, Inbound should be good as dead. A slow on top of him from the Slice and Dice. Who's going to be the one to get the final hit? It's Zapman, it's Panatom, it's Zapman. And Shinto even rotates over.
Yeah, I think that's the right call. Give that over to Zap, let him scale into that later stages. Good positioning from Panatom. The Solar Scarabs still just trying to do maybe a little bit too much. And the Leviathans this time around are much better at responding to these fights. You know, they're bringing numbers a little bit faster than they did in the last game. And as a result, fights are going more their way.
Look, I know it's just a purple buff, but it's a hammer. Just block the hammer from Wrong You to secure it instead. He steals the purple buff, and they go for the Gold Fury. Sonic Boom only finds Wrong You, but as soon as Scream lands, he gets whooped right back up, and Panatom puts him down. And right back to business. The Leviathans go to the Gold Fury, but keep an eye on Stewart if a Dark Portal were to come. But it's down, and he doesn't have an opportunity to get in. Leviathans get a kill and get the gold.
This blink for Scream set up First Blood and has just been abused ever since. That they've really just landed every CC on him. It was a hammer after the failed red buff invade. They got him killed before. That time it's an easy whoop from Zapman, which sets up an easier axe from Shinto. And that's just going to be free pickings all the time. And Scream only level 10, so has 2 levels to go before he gets those purification beads. And I imagine that after that death, we won't see him playing aggressively until he's got him.
Not a lot of defense here for SOT. Body blocked by Yarkor. And Panatom over there just to make sure to help finish the job. Another kill up for Yark the Shark on this Kamazotz to put him up 2-0.
Man, I mean, Panatom is everywhere. He's in right. He's on red. He's ganking duo. He's there for gold. I mean, it's just so hard to track him right now. He's been a part of every single kill for the Leviathans so far. And has been a key part in them. You know, not just showing up at the last second and getting a last hit or just being in range while they get finished off. His ultimates have been key. His slows from the slice and dice have been really key. Panatom's playing really well this game.
Once again, another objective for the Leviathans. This time it's the Pyromancer. That one gets shredded away nice and easily, and the Leviathans continue to escalate this gold lead. They were down nearly 1,000 earlier on in the game, and now they're up almost 4K of their own. Once they grab that Scorpion, they grab the Totem Aku, and then a 2,000 experience difference separating these two teams as well. Leviathans, it started out a little bit shaky here, but they have done nothing but turn it around.
It's been centered around what Panatom's doing more than anyone else. I mean, no one has a massive lead. Yarkor's going to be ahead, of course, because he's 2-0 and Solar Patrol's 0-2. But it's not like there's a level disparity like we saw in the last game over here in the solo lane. And this time, it's just really simple. Where Panatom goes, things are going well for the Atlantis Leviathans. Where Panatom is not, they are not fighting. And they're being very, very disciplined around Panatom's positioning and playing really well as a unit.
It's kind of similar to that game 1 where he was 1-2. Sure, Adachi doesn't ever feel good to have low kills, but then he had 11 assists just because, again, he was everywhere on the map. No matter where the team was, he was shortly behind to follow up and help at least get some kills here. Now it's the opposite. Instead of the 1-2, he's 2-1-5 to start out this early game, 12 minutes in. Leviathans up 7-2 after a rough start. Another Sonic Boom on Shinto. He'll pop the beads, jump under the tower. Panatom will dash in. And that's the end of the fight for the Scarabs half at least. But now with Wrong You here, Leviathans may want to try and go back in as Veronic gets stunned out and chunked by Shinto.
Yeah, of course here, but everyone's a little bit too healthy. That is a much better engagement for the Solar Scarabs because they just got 2 sets of beads. Panatom and Shinto both used them, and they didn't end up losing anyone on the side of the Solar Scarabs or really using a valuable relic. Sure, inbound uses the blink, but that isn't too long of a cooldown. So really, really good engagement there by Scream. Doesn't try and do too much. You know, is level 12, hasn't bought his beads quite yet, so I'm a little surprised to see him go aggressive, but must have been some good tracking to know that Wrong You couldn't have been there and that it was just a clean 3-on-2, and they know they can win that even without Scream having beads.
Looking across here, it is a Rage coming out of Scream. That second item, we saw it out of Sam for Soccer. When he played the Mercury, you get some early damage and pen, then you just start slamming down that crit tree. And he's not going to slow down here, even picking up that Hidden Dagger as his third item towards even more crit.
It's going to be probably a Deathbringer. I mean, I can't imagine it's going to be a Malice necessarily. And most of the time we see like Wind Demon in that slot right after the Rage. So I'm a little surprised to see Scream going for something really expensive like Deathbringer, but you're going to have to insta-kill the Freya somehow, and Deathbringer does that the most effectively. So we'll see if that's the direction he wants to go. Knowing Scream, he probably will go something like Malice, because no one else buys it, so Scream likes buying it. That's usually how it works.
Only FineOK buys it. It's just FineOK who buys Malice.
Right, exactly. Kama Solo.
And Arthur.
That's right.
But that's it. That's all we've seen out of here. Shinto answers kind of both of our questions of, which was that mace going to be, Crusher or Jotuns. The answer is both. He picks up Crusher first, and then goes for a Jotun's Wrath immediately afterwards.
So he's got everything he needs. Cooldown, pen, CDR, he's got attack speed from the Crusher as well. feeling like he's in a good spot. This is usually where Ullr feels pretty close to his strongest in relative strength to everyone else on the map. This 3-item power spike. You still have insta-delete capability, but you've also got enough cooldown to make it feel like if you miss something, you're not completely without any sort of recourse. So I like this point in the build for him. And as soon as those beads come back up, I expect him to play a lot more aggressively. But as it stands, without having beads and a Mercury on the map, I think he's playing it smart, standing behind the wall, just waiting for the wave to come to him.
Man, a point that you kind of brought up yesterday, we'll hold that thought here. We might not have to hold too long. Inbound goes down instantly, a 4-man collapse out of Leviathans. But we're seeing basically next to no mages out of really any of these teams right now in the mid lane. We're seeing some of them in the Hunter, but we're also seeing a lot of Hunters in the mid lane. Scream evaporated the instant he tries to go in up against Shinto. Baronic dove on in the mid lane. Wrong you, and Yarkor will eliminate him. Panatom with the final hit. SOT is able to get out with the help of the execute. But again, it's just a complete collapse and surrounding of the Leviathans on the Solar Scarabs. They wipe out 4.
And it's just the conveyor belt, man, from the Solar Scarabs, and teams will fall into these sorts of mistakes over and over again. It's inbound again, way too far forward, no one near him. Easy pick for the Leviathans. And instead of just taking their loss and going, that stinks, we've lost Gold Fury, Scream decides to go in, he gets picked, and then that Baronic and Solar Patrol step up to help Scream, they get killed for it. It's the old conveyor belt problem there for the Solar Scarabs, and that conveyor belt does not end well for them. Now down, 7,000 gold, just 16 minutes, and a Fire Giant on everyone from the Leviathans.
Inbound got slapped around by Yarkor. Yarkor obviously level 16 here on now 17, as I say that, on this Camazotz against the level 11 Kuzumbo. And all that damage dealt to Inbound was just Yarkor. Smacked him with a couple of abilities and then slapped him with basic attacks up until he forced him under that tower. And now with Fire Giant around every member of Leviathan's waist. And 4 towers still standing, a lot of structures to go through. And the Solar Scarabs want to try and answer by going for a Primal Fury. Zapman is here. There's not a whole lot this Freya can do by himself, but luckily he's got some backup for the team. The Scarabs get the Primal Fury. The Leviathans start pouring in.
Yeah, good decision there for the Scarabs to try and just, we'll weighted coin flip it in our favor here, and if it works out, great. If not, unlucky, but let's get out as soon as we're done with this objective, because they know they can't take a 5-on-5 on neutral ground right now. I don't think they can take a 5-on-5 underneath a Phoenix right now. The Leviathans should be so favored in that position just because they've got all of this damage built in now with this Fire Giant. You know, it's not a massive itemization advantage for anyone on their side, but starting to get a little bit noticeable, and that lead's only going to grow from here because a lot of that gold is still available on the towers.
Yark and Panatom here to fight the 3v. Now make that a 4v2 in the mid lane. Panatom being ran at by SOT, but Yarkora will make sure that there's nothing more. A Sonic Boom in the mid lane. They've got 4 distracted in mid. 2 just went back to base. And they're going to lose a left Phoenix because of it. Maybe even more. Inbound whooped up, but he's got the push to at least get himself out. Only going to grab Wrong You there. And all this while, Yarkor and Panatom are just going to kill SOT running up the mid lane.
Wrong You may fall as well, but nope. That's just an easy 1-for-0 for the Leviathans, plus the left side Phoenix. Inbound the only one there to defend, and he's a level 12 Kuzumbo. They don't have any respect for what he can do on the defense. No wave clear, not enough disruption in the AoE. So that's an easy Phoenix, and Leviathans continue to just break this game wide open.
It's both towers in Phoenix and left. Now mid-tier 2 gone. Only 1 tower left standing on the map. And that's the one over on the right side of the map. And you do see Leviathans to start retreating from the mid. They don't want to go towards a commit at this Phoenix just yet. Instead, they'll strip away the jungle over here on this left side. A red buff up for Zapman. Because once again, he's going for this quad ring build over anything else, really favoring to get a lot of that extra attack speed online.
Hey, it's been working for him in this game. I mean, not a ton of player damage, just above Stewart, who are both near the bottom, but, you know, you get to those objectives, it feels okay.
1v1, Shinto versus Scream. Scream is winning. He almost kills him with the major look. Shinto trying to go through, but Shinto's no longer alone. An ult from Panatom will slow him down, and Shinto will throw out a couple of little taunts there as he gets the kill up over the jungler.
Yeah, gets the kill. Little lucky maybe that he ends up surviving that crit, but he knew how much damage he would take. He had the Aegis available and knew he didn't need to use it. Had a little bit of backup coming, so good bait there from Shinto. And I don't mind that play from Scream. You know, you're looking to force something a little bit at this point in the game. You're down by a lot. You've got to have a lot of things go well for you to win the game from this position. May as well take some riskier plays with some higher upside than just sitting underneath your Phoenix and waiting for the inevitable end to come.
One of the things, now we actually get a first-person perspective of Shinto as he picks up his red buff. Scream walks up. He's just waiting for that moment, blinks over the wall for a couple of crits. And this little 1v1 battle, we don't get late-game 1v1s very often. I say late game. I mean, we're 19 minutes in. But it's not often that you get to see little skirmishes like this. Panatom comes in. It's only the ultimate that he gets off there. But Shinto essentially gets a solo kill there with some help. Well, now the rest of the Leviathans group up towards the right side, but Fire Giant buff is now gone off the waist of the Leviathans.
I mean, it's going to be difficult for them to get this. Good whoop, but not any sort of follow-up CC that you typically want. Rongyu's AoE Coerce plus Frenzy plus Shoguns is a lot of damage, but without Fire Giant, I think this is the right call from the Leviathans. Back it up. You know, you're up by 13K. That's a ton at this point in the game, but Shinto doesn't have beads. Scream hits the ultimate, he'll die before he gets his Aegis off. You know, it just gets a little wonky on that siege. So good attempt, but the Scarabs were there and able to stuff it out.
Zatman pushed through the red buff, takes a lot of damage. Sonic Boom's going to force the beads out, but Zatman is immuning most of the Watery Graves push back up in the Valkyrie's discretion. Is going to need a lot of health when he lands because SOT is right there, but Rongyu's got even better body blocks. Aegis will hold out Zatman for a little while longer, and the Leviathans will turn the fight right back on its head. SOT goes down, and it's Yarkor who gets him.
Panatom on the chase alongside Yarkor, looking for Scream and the rest. Yarkor in the midst of 3 and undeterred, still sieging forward.
Stewart and Baronic both low, inbound, barely at half health, and he can't even keep his carries alive. 1 down, make it 2. Panatom picks up another inbound, good is gone, and it's only Scream left to defend against the onslaught of Leviathans with a Phoenix gone. This is curtain calls on game number 3. Leviathans are going to extend their lead up in the set.
Seems like Order side doing pretty well so far in this set. None of the games have been particularly close, pretty one-sided in each affair, and that one just happened to be for the Leviathans. And it seems like these right sides of the map getting pretty volatile. That game, Yarkor 5-1, Panatom 5-0, pretty similar to what we saw out of Solar Patrol and Scream the game before. So if I'm on these teams, you know, if I'm the coach, I'm thinking primarily about how we're playing around solo lane. You know, what does our jungle pick look like? How does our jungle match up? Because it seems like all the pressure right now is really being found on the right side of the map.
I mean, in game 2, they found success in banning away Yarkor's Kamazots, not letting him get an opportunity to pick that, or maybe I guess it was Leviathans who banned it to not give it to the Scarabs. Maybe we see that again here in game 4 because Yarkor has just kind of been left alone on his own little island. He's able to dominate and get the Leviathans up 2-1 in this set. We'll take it to a break, and then game 4 right after.
I want to take off my jacket for this one.
Dude, this... No, I know he was supposed to take you out last weekend, but he got busy.
Atlantis Leviathans are now officially 1 win away from the Smite World Championship quarterfinals after making quick work of the Solar Scarabs here in Game 2. Plenty of Smite left to be played. The Solar Scarabs not a team that shy away from these turnaround opportunities. But if the Atlantis Leviathans play the same way they did in Game 3, in Game 4 that's about to happen, could be looking good for the Leviathans to move on forward. Gormizer, these games so far, that's what I'm trying to say, in this set have been pretty lopsided, one way or another. Leviathans got first blood, Scarabs bounced back, and if you're a Leviathans fan, this is the exact answer you needed.
It's this wild area, so it's been first pick. Whoever's first pick this entire set has been the one in control of the game, right? You've got Leviathans games 1 and 3, where things are just pretty overwhelmingly in their favor, and then Scarabs in games 2, where things just look overwhelmingly in their favor. Interestingly enough, though, this week, outside of this set, Orderside only has like a 20% win rate. They've won 4 games, 16 losses for them. So yeah, that's not the best track record for the Orderside, but hey, they're making up for those numbers here. And this one was just about as clean as you could get. I mean, Panatom once again just seems to be everywhere. Shinto back onto this Uller looks really good. And a couple of these things, I mean, you saw the Uller get banned out. The Daji as well getting banned out. The Uller was banned in Game 2 because the Scarabs didn't want to deal with it. The Uller was banned in Game 2, and the Daji banned Games 2 and 3. And yet it didn't seem to slow them down enough. And a lot of it, you know, outside of just good play from the Leviathans, there was also some, let's call them interesting choices from the Scarabs in terms of positioning. It was one around a Fury where, specifically, it was just a bunch of stagger kills. I mean, if you look at the timer, almost everybody was 10 seconds after the other. And it wasn't like the Leviathans chased them down for 10 seconds. It was, somebody died, somebody else went in for the fight, then they died, then somebody else went in for the fight. Then they died, then somebody else went in for the fight.
Right.
And it's just like a lot of weird staggering like that from the Scarabs.
Well, the casters called it what? Like kind of the conveyor belt mentality almost from the Scarabs. And that, you know, again, this is not so much the way the Scarabs have played recently, but that has been an issue in the calendar year of Season 8 for the Solar Scarabs. And so you hope that doesn't end up becoming the case here in game number 4. Remember, if the Solar Scarabs lose here, not officially out of the Smite World Championship quarterfinals. They will have another chance later on in the weekend against the winner of the Oni Warriors set that we'll see tomorrow, I believe. So this is a fantastic setup game for the Atlantis Leviathans where everything just seems to be going in their favor. And remember earlier on, Gore, I talked about how with Panatom specifically, it's not often you get like 1-kill games out of Panatom. The Daji game was 1 kill, but at least looked good, as we've talked about in the setup department. Susano looked bad as far as 1 kill goes for Panatom. This style of game is more traditional where, of course, you're setting up for your team in the way that we know Nemesis can, but you're also shredding down damage and finding a lot of kills for yourself as well. So if the feet are kind of back underneath Panatom after what was a rough game 2, Scream has got to step up pretty big here for the Scarabs.
Yeah, especially because, you know, playing the Mercury, from what we've seen out of it this week from the Dragons specifically and what we've seen in the past from the Dragons, it is a volatile pick, obviously, because it can feast or famine. It can do so much well and then do so poorly the next instant. But I think this is something that Scream, you know, maybe had prepared, was thinking it could work out, and then it's not, well, partially through fault of their own, but a little bit of the team as well, where it just didn't get to flourish the way that we've gotten to see out of a Mercury, especially in the jungle.
Man, and you know, why change it, right? It's so surprising seeing a Naja banned just in general, and then you remember that Scream looked really good on it in 2 of the 3 games against the Oni Warriors, so it's going to continue to be a Naja ban. Leviathan's obviously happy with that taking up one of the first 3 ban slots so far. Solar Scarabs, losers pick the side. Solar Scarabs want that first pick. Does that send us on to a game 5? Becomes the important question. First pick has loved Camazotz so far in this set. First pick will not get Camazotz here in game number 4. Leviathans will take that one away. Uller also banned out by the Solar Scarab score. So now we're starting to get bits and pieces of the compositions that have worked for either team starting to get banned out. And this is a pretty fun set so far to follow along with pick and ban strategy, right? I mean, we talk so much about the adaptation that's necessary for teams as the sets go longer, the meta in the set itself kind of shifts and changes around.
Yeah.
You know, now we're starting to ban Uller and Freya, which is something that, you know, you didn't think you'd see coming into this set, but the Leviathans have looked okay on it. Erlang Shen looked good for Scream in game 2, so the meta of this set absolutely shifting around. What is left open, though, for the Solar Scarabs in that first pick slot? Tiamat, Izanami, they're both there. Those have been 2 carries that the Solar Scarabs have really loved looking towards in this set. But with the victory rate of first pick so far in this set, you need to get something good. And Achilles, that has already seen a pick in this set, but it was like 9th or 10th, is going to get locked in first here for the Solar
Yeah,
Scarabs.
I was trying to figure out, looking at just today's games, what they would want to go for, and in my mind, there's just such a smorgasbord of gods for them
Great
to
word.
try and scoop up. I like the Achilles because, like you said earlier, the set did great for Solar Troll.
Yep.
Has some flexibility, can be played in the jungle if so pleases. But the problem is this, right? It's less about, okay, what do the Scarabs scoop up? And it was a little bit more about, okay, so what did they let through? They've been banning Yemoja Terra for the last couple of games. Yemoja, I think, for all 3 up to this point. Terra for the last 2. And, well, we're getting graced by Ronghu's presence on Yemoja, so I really hope they have an answer for this.
It is a true blessing. Like, as a neutral fan, Ronghu plays this Yemoja at near the highest level it can be played, if not at the highest level. And so the Leviathans, at least through their first 2, should be pretty excited. At least in their first 1. Oleron, Gore, I think, maybe, you know, it's a good pick on paper. Sanctified Field, fantastic. Maybe open to being counterpicked around a little bit, and it's pretty early on in the draft. So that's something the Solar Scarabs Gore now can maybe draft around outside of the solo lane, which, I mean, I guess technically with Fatal Strike has some CC immunity in the ultimate. You can maybe start to prioritize that CC immunity a little bit heavier because this Oleron has been locked in.
The good news is one of the biggest problems Oleron has faced throughout the year has been that Camazotz. So that's a good ban for them to already have on board, making sure that's not going to be there. The other one that was really problematic for this Oleron has been Cthulhu, who we saw kind of a lot at the end of the Phase 3 groups and going into the Phase 3 playoffs.
Yep.
Hasn't been showing his face a whole ton here this week, so that is an option, but with the Achilles already on the board, I think the Leviathans are banking a little bit on the fact that they're not going to have that specific counter matchup to deal with.
Izanami again for Stewart. Tiamat again for Baronic. And so those 2 picks, obviously something that the Solar Scarabs feel we're not broken. Now here's the first big pivot in the set. When you start to get later on, sort of the individual picks, and maybe we don't want to deal with this game, this game, so on and so forth. Eventually there's going to have to be a bit of a curveball thrown out, and the AMC is a curveball here in this set. Between the Oleron, which I think we assume heads on over to duo lane, AMC we've seen in mid maybe more recently than we have seen the Oleron. And AMC has found success score. And so now it's time for Shinto, if this does end up being AMC mid, to show us if he has this pick in his back pocket.
And this is something that the Scarabs even actually said when they were going up against the Warriors. A lot of the problems they faced were just specifically Amus and Cobb. They said once we got rid of the Amus and Cobb, things got way easier for us in terms of dealing with Dardes. And so if this is something that can look really good, maybe it's something that the Scarabs, because they got to play against it the other day, understand a little bit better. But you know, you don't have the exact same safety as an Uller does. You don't have the leap to get away. You don't have the stun to keep yourself safe and for self-peel. You are a lot more susceptible to a lot of things. You can only move, you know, slightly faster in your hives. Your honey can slow some people down. But ultimately, it's the damage numbers that really come through. If this team makes it to late game with just those top 3, The Leviathans, those 3 alone with Fire Giant could take any objective they want under their eyes. Honestly, even without Fire Giant, they could probably take any objective they want. You add in, a little bit of a mix, something in the jungle to help set them up early on, and I think that's exactly what they're doing with this Gilgamesh, is really threading the needle, bringing everything together, and making it look great.
Gilgamesh, good playmaking jungler for Panatom. If you're going to ride the hot hand for the Leviathans, give the hot hand something to cook with, and Gilgamesh is absolutely that. Now, Ganesh has seen some play already in this set for Wrong You and the Leviathans. The Solar Scarabs are going to lock in what looks like a Kleena here, and they will, around the Ganesh there as well. So you get Ganesh, the Dharmic Pillars, the setup, all that provided. Some AoE lock in with the Dharmic Pillar ultimate, and then some abilities to drop inside of that. If Inbound is able to find a good ult between the Dark Portal, Tiamat, of course, Kleena can dive in there. And so you look at the Solar Scarabs draft core, you got to win 2 straight. So you have to start with 1 right here in Game 4. RDO, 10th pick, by the way. Let's talk about that in a moment, though. Solar Scarabs, draw hole. Achilles, Iza, Tiamat, Ganesh, and Kleena. You think that this is a composition that can win here in Game 4?
I honestly do, just because of what they've given themselves, right? You've got a couple of picks that are really good with their CC and their setup and controlling, the crowd, right? That's exactly what it is. They're really good
They're
at
controlling
making
the crowd.
sure at making the
There
Leviathans.
should be a term for that.
Yeah, I wonder what it could be. Either way, they're really good at locking them down and making the carries feel uncomfortable, and that's going to set up. Normally, you talk about, okay, well, here's where Baronic can go big or a mid laner can go big, and I'm expecting good damage out of Baronic, but realistically, they've got a lot to set up. Screams damage, which is a great way to play because that's exactly what they've done and found success on in the past, but they also have good setup there for Izanami, and they balance out the duo lane, so ultimately things shouldn't be too bad. In fact, it might even be beneficial for them just slightly. Yamoja Olarun versus an Iza Ganesh is definitely going to kind of balance itself out, I think, in the ultimate end of it. But realistically, I think they've got a lot of tools that are going to fight a little bit towards the, late early game into the mid game. That's really where I think they're going to start to kind of shine. And then from that point forward, as long as they don't fall too far behind, they'll be able to transition that into a late game pretty cleanly.
And now, Gore, I think on the flip side of the coin, it's important to look at the Leviathan, specifically the solo lane that just got locked in. RDO, last pick here for the Atlantis Leviathans. In this set, it's either been Camazotz or RDO for hardcore so far. Camazotz is one.
Yep.
RDO is not. And earlier on, think way back if you can to the Phase 3 playoffs. The last game against the Camelot Kings that the Leviathans played, it was an RDO for hardcore. Also a loss in that game. Now, you're never betting against hardcore on this pick. He plays it very well. Maybe it's the situation around him. Is that a worrying trend, though? That RDO has not been successful in the last 2 runs here for the Atlantis Leviathans.
It is, specifically as well, because the last one was not just an unsuccessful run, but also an unsuccessful run versus the Achilles specifically, right?
Yep.
Now I'm looking at this RDO, and I'm a little worried about how the lane phase is going to go. I mean, Gilgamesh is going to be good for heal, but when I look at it, Amuz and Cobb should, slightly early, but realistically needs an item or 2 under his belt before he can really get his hands on the game. Same thing there for Olaron. It feels like the Leviathans are more than okay right now coasting through this lane phase, and that's assuming that the Scarabs let them coast through it, right? I think that they've drafted in a way on the side of the Scarabs that they can get aggressive when they want and how they want. So if you are falling slightly behind, if you're getting bullied in the lane, you're just as susceptible to all of a sudden a Kleena showing up in the lane and getting the kill onto you and falling behind outrageously.
Now, Gora, I want to talk about Zapman here a little bit and the trend that started to get established in this set. It's been Freya a couple of times, and the Olarun now continues the magical ADC conversation around Zapman here in this game, and that's a conversation we're going to have after a quick break. I'm not going to out anyone. Somebody picked a band skin, though. So we're taking a quick pause. When we come back, we'll get you right into Game 4. patience, everybody. Just a little bit more time before we get right on into game number 4. An opportunity in this one for the Atlantis Leviathans to head on to the Smite World Championship quarterfinal. So where Scarabs got to win 2 straight. And Gore, that's something that I might be concerned about if it were any other team, but the Solar Scarabs are apparently really good at pushing these on to 5 games.
Plus, I mean, at least when you look at the history of this set, their first pick. So, like, you know, benefit of the doubt. Like, worst case scenario,
so
you
let's
can
just go to
rely on
game 5?
that. Yeah, naturally.
And honest to God, I don't know. I can feel Jithens just like punching air right now. I'm about to say this. We've got a very close set next. Also, the Jade Dragons and the Olympus Bolts.
Yeah, we do.
These matchups always had the potential to be pushed to 5 games. We figured that neither of these 2 sets would be straight 3-0s. At least we're correct for number 1. I think depends on which Bolts and which Dragons show up in our second set of the day. Let's talk about game number 4 here, though, Gore, and who needs to step up respectively for these teams. The Solar Scarabs have some important picks that we've seen trends established around throughout the set, the Izanami and the Tiamat mainly. Kleena feels like a potential playmaker. The junglers have been pretty back and forth this set. Gilgamesh is a playmaker. Do you think the jungle is going to be the most important here in this?
Especially early on, I think Kleena is going to be able to get a little more hands-on before the Gilgamesh, dropkick. Like, the problem really isn't necessarily the jungle for the Leviathans, because I think we're going to see just fine damage and control coming out of Panatom. I think Kleena and Scream are going to be able to do things without help.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of help around them, and that help is very good around the same times that Kleena is going to be looking for these ganks. Gilgamesh is going to be okay without help, but realistically, Artio can get some stuff done early on, but we saw how that lane phase went in game number 2. That's what I'm worried about over there. Olaran Yamoja, you're probably waiting a little while before you're going over there for any pressure. And so your mid lane is really your safest bet. Amuz and Cobb still would like a couple of items, but the Swarm, as well as like when Stinger comes online, and just as in-hand auto attacks can hit pretty hard early on. I think it's just the backup that you're going to have. Leviathans might need a little more time to get things rolling for themselves versus what the Scarabs have.
And I think, if you center that around the jungle conversation, Gore, it's going to be an important one for Scream. It's been a lot of Erlang Shen, a lot of Naja, and some Gilgamesh from what we've seen here recently, sprinkle in the Kali game that he was allowed to play there as well. This is one of the earliest, if not first, looks at Scream on the Kleena in a competitive environment. A must-win game for the Solar Scarabs in Game 4.
A big one for the Scarabs because, they need to get a win here if they want to stop the Leviathans and put it one more closer towards them getting to the SWC. Leviathans, they close this one out. They're done for the weekend. They go to the Smite World Championships. They get a sleep happy at night. But they got to be able to stop the Solar Scarabs here in game number 4, Aggro.
And it's not going to be easy because I think the Scarabs have come away with a pretty solid draft. I mean, they're playing around pressure in their side lanes, which is where they've been the most successful so far. Baronic on Tiamat again, which did well game 2, not so well game 3, so, not feeling any particular type of way of that. I'm really looking towards what Shinto is going to be doing on this AMC because the Medusa performance was not particularly inspiring, though his side lanes were really struggling in that game. The Eulers looked really good. How is the AMC going to look is the big question mark for me because the Leviathans usually rely quite a bit on Shinto being a primary win condition.
Well, it will be that Hunter versus Mage in the mid lane. But on this side, it's Double Magic versus the Magic Fizz of the duo lane, and Rong Yu is on the worst end of the trade. Stewart and Inbound both dash in aggressively. But there's a meditation by Rong Yu to keep him alive, keep him topped off in health. He's not too deterred, even being down only the now, just procking over level 2.
Yeah, he'll be okay. I mean, they've got sustain in this lane, so not a huge concern. As long as you don't die in that lane, you're probably feeling just okay.
I don't know how they didn't spot each other there, but it's junglers against the mid laners.
Whoa!
And SOT this time is the one who rotates from the wrong lane to try and get a kill in mid, and they do just that. Shinto falls down for first blood.
So last game it was Inbound who came wave 2 in order to get a kill. This time it's Solo Retrol, but both times it resulted in the same thing. Kills in the mid lane for the Scarabs.
But it's a kill for the Leviathans in the duo lane as they collapse on top of Inbound for a kill of their own. But now it's Scream rotating to the left side of the map. See if he can get anything here, maybe up against Zapman. But it's going to be a portal to hold him out. Zapman does move on. Rong Yu with some solid body blocks and that Riptide keep him out.
So close. Scream just one auto away. Stewart one auto away, but Stu just not close enough in order to get that kill. But still a good look now. as Panatom meets up with Scream in the jungle. Inbound again, just a little bit too aggressive. That's certainly been a problem for him so far here today. Has found a lot of really great plays, but also gotten picked off a little bit too much. And that certainly takes some wind out of the sails of the Scarabs, who had just made a great play in mid.
Well, that will definitely slow them down here. Back to the Hunter versus Magical Hunter out of Zapman. It seems that Zapman doesn't want to play a physical Hunter today. 3 games in a row of Freya. Now jumping on the Yola run here. Seems that he's content with sticking with these magical carries.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much that he doesn't want to be playing Hunters as much as it is Shinto does not want to be playing mages. And if that's the case, then someone's got to do it. And it's got to be, you got to get your magical damage somewhere, and it's been coming from Zapman. You know, it does concern me long term, you know, heading into later on this week or the Smite World Championships, you know, how one-dimensional the Leviathans may be if this is going to be their strategy. But so far, so good. It's working well.
And Ron, you did say in the interview that they might be trying out some new stuff here today, and then win or lose today, or, you know, even if they have to play for the rest of the weekend, I mean, you've heard on the desk, you've heard it through. I mean, there's still a couple more weeks to play to kind of formulate some new stuff. And it seems the Leviathans haven't really had to pull any kind of new tricks out here. They've just been sticking with this Hunter mid, Magical Hunter duo. Everything seems to be all the same otherwise. The leap in by Panatom will be ignored by a leap from Baronic as he goes back towards the red buff.
That was close. I mean, Panatom definitely could have just drop-kicked him right there, and that would have been a kill with Shinto's Stinger because Baronic still didn't have beads, but drop-kick must have been on cooldown. But that's a couple times now that Baronic gotten himself in trouble contesting mids.
Fight over the double stun, Sanctified Field, the knockup is good, Stewart makes it out, but the orbs and Panatom's leap in are enough to take him down. Now inbound on the run, but his dash is still on cooldown. Drop kick out against the wall. Panatom chases him out, the stun just off the mark, but Panatom gets that scepter, or that scimitar right back online to take him down for a double kill.
What a stun by Rongyu. I mean, it does not get any prettier than a double stun off that bubble, straight into a Sanctified Field, into a double knockup. I mean, you're just going to get crushed in that fight, and that's exactly what happens to the Scarabs. Panatom gets both, and that sets him in a very good position now moving forward on this Gilgamesh. And we've seen Gilgamesh be able to run away with leads so easily because he has that survivability, he has some tankier stats being a warrior, but then just getting that base damage up and online, getting to his itemization faster, definitely a great start here for the Leviathans.
Panatom and Scream do both get their Jotun's Wraths online now, but it's 2 kills up for Panatom after that double kill over on the left side of the map. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, outside of the initial skirmish that we saw, these two have kind of just been left alone to do their own farming, and with that, Shinto's been able to once again pick up another Transcendence for his mid lane Hunter.
Yeah, it makes sense still on the AMC, and he's actually a little bit ahead of Baronic right now. Shinto is pretty high up on the net worth charts despite being the victim of that first blood. So yeah, he is ahead of Baronic, despite Baronic, you know, getting a wave without Shinto and getting that assist on his death. Says it speaks on how much more neutral farm Shinto has gotten through the first 5 minutes.
Scream expended both of his Veils to take that Scorpion, so he won't have one for the fight here. A quick dash away from the drop kick of Panatom will be enough to get Scream out, and the Riptide from Rongyu will provide that extra mobility to get both of them out of the deep end of the jungle. Leviathan's up 3 kills to 1. Now inbound finally rotating in towards that mid lane. Small golden experience lead on about 500 and 1,000 respectively here. Leviathans do have a small lead to start this game out.
Yeah, it's really around this mid lane as inbound meets up and gets Sanctified Fielded again. Good body blocks too.
Zapman is just going to make that nice and easy. Shinto comes up with the last hit of the kill, and now over towards the left side Scorpion for the Atlantis Leviathan. Stewart and Baronic walking in, Scream gets him low, and the Veil comes back up just in time. Panatom drops the Wind to Shamash, but Baronic leaps in aggressively, and now there's an ultimate out of Rongyu to hold him in place and maybe punish this mid laner. Stinger goes through, and the stun off the Moonblast kills him.
Really nice turnaround there by Rongyu, but the Scarabs not backing down. Inbound gets picked off, but does all he can, you know, drops the Dharmic Pillars, make sure he puts Zapman in as bad of a position as he can, and then Scream really makes it happen, man. That damage that Kalina has is just crazy. Zapman went from really healthy to on the grayscale screen very quickly in that fight. Good turnaround from the Leviathans, though. I mean, Baronic definitely trying to get a little bit too aggressive. Easy punish there from Rongyu and Shinto afterwards.
Level 9 now for Shinto on the Samuzen Cobb. Nearly has finished up his Transcendence already, sitting at 40 stacks just 7 minutes in. Zatman just wants his purple buff, and he's not going to get it. Inbound takes it with a turn of fate to make Zatman have to sit by and watch that buff goes away. Down a little bit here up against Stewart, even despite having the 4 assists to his name.
Yeah, it's not the easiest type of position now for Stewart because he does have this level lead, and you think that he should be able to push it, but with the way that Rongyu has been hanging around this side, the one time he's not here, in he goes.
Zatman gets hit by the Dark Portal, but the knockback pushes Stewart away. Dharmic Pillars drop 2, but that doesn't get anything, and now it's Panatom and Rongyu on the way through. A lot of damage out of Scream as he screams inside the wall and drops the Veil. And that may have been just enough to dissuade the Leviathans from pushing a little further forward.
Good rotation coming over, and it looked like it might be a turnaround for the Leviathans, but as you said, Scream really put some good damage, did about a third of both Panatom and Rongyu's health, or a quarter rather, and that's enough to back them off. And into the wall again he goes. Zatman does have Sanctified Field now, but is a bit isolated.
Will be dashed at, hit with the Flickering Spirits, the Veil off, the Scream good. And Zatman down to a third of his health, but now with no dash and no mobility, Scream is caught inside the Winds of Shamash, inside the Sanctified Field, and sent back to the grayscale screen. Another kill up for Panatom.
Maybe a little bit overkill there for Sanctified Field. I think Scream was dead to just Winds of Shamash, but hey, better safe than sorry. Puts him down, and despite the 3-0-2, Scream is the only jungler at level 9 right now. Panatom a little bit behind currently, but not by too much. I think that overall he'll be okay after he clears out some of these camps in his side of the jungle, though Shinto seems to have done him that favor already. So that goes to show why Panatom ends up falling a little bit behind at times, because Shinto has already cleared out that whole right side. And it's certainly gone to good use, at the very least. Highest level in the game by a pretty considerable amount, level 11 right now.
No, maybe Mifflin was right in saying that Shinto is just a greedy player, always being at the top of the GPM charts for his team. He's level 11, 9 minutes in the game, Agra. I mean, he's gone well and beyond the level a minute. It's just going to keep ever climbing. Top of the XP per minute, obviously being the highest level. Top of the net worth chart. He's only been a part of, well, I guess technically 2 kills. 1 kill to his name, 1 assist. They're going to need a little bit more to try and stop this Gold Fury. No one is there, and the burn from the Solar Scarabs between the Pillars and the Veil clean up the objective.
Really good ward vision by the Scarabs. Look at how many blue wards are on that side of the map, and so they know that that one is pretty safe. Use a couple of ultimates, but overall get a good return for it. So like that play from the Scarabs, playing nice in taking what the Leviathans are going to give them in that moment, but Shinto cashes in on the lack of mid lane there with Moronic over helping on that Gold Fury, gets his tier 1 tower in return.
Tier 1 tower and maybe more. Pyromancer started up and is being shredded away. Yarkor tries to zone them out. It's a double stun, hits him with the maul, gets him a lot of damage against them. The Pyromancer goes down, and it's a skirmish over by the Pyromancer that ends abruptly. Tornado thrown out by Baronic, and that'll be the end of the engagement. Leviathans, they lose the objective on the left side, but they pick up the mid-tier 1, and they pick up the Pyro.
Yeah, if you're talking which one's coming out ahead, I like the Leviathans getting tower plus that Pyromancer instead of just the 1 Gold Fury. That's a better map trade for the Leviathans because it opens up what we're seeing right now. A lot of pressure in the enemy jungle, leaves you able to path much more aggressively this way because you know you have more options for escape without a tower there to cut you off. I mean, this is what the Leviathans want to do. Make it as easy as possible for Shinto to continue his dominance in that mid lane and let him try and be the one they play around.
Man, if this isn't classic Zatman here, down a level, down in items, and what is he doing? He's still running at the enemy Hunter consistently, even on this magical Hunter Nola run. That does not seem to have changed in the mind of Steven here. Scream will go back and clear up a couple of back camps of his own. He's got his Jotun's Wrath online, waiting for his next item. Is this going to be an early Heartseeker at a Scream's second item?
Could be. I mean, could be Transcendence. Yeah, it is Transcendence. So that's going to slow him down a good amount in the jungle. It takes a long time to stack this in the jungle in particular. But whenever he gets it finished, you know, it'll be really impactful. And Kleedna has pretty good scaling. So getting a higher power item like Transcendence does end up feeling pretty good. But, you know, Leviathans are starting to turn up the gas a little bit. Expected Scream to try and just keep pace, but instead going for a little bit more of a scaling look with this trance.
You can see some of those slow damage numbers ticking up onto him as he sits inside that wall. He does eat up damage every, I think it's like 0.4, 0.5 seconds that he's inside that wall. Although the numbers are small to start, it starts slowly adding up the longer and longer you sit inside this. So he gets out quickly after seeing that there's not much kill pressure over on that right side of the jungle.
Yeah, that's the right call. And you can, you get a little bit of ability lifesteal and stuff coming out of the wall, so you have the opportunity to gain some of that back, but for the most part, you want to be in and out of the wall pretty quickly. You do not want to spend a ton of time in there, just enough to beat the enemy team into thinking you aren't around, and then you can pop out and get them with the abilities coming out of the wall, the little jump scares.
There's a Gauntlet of Thieves and a Pridwin on one side here for the supports being wrong. Over here for inbound, he's gone for yet another Divine Ruin, even despite the fact that Baronica's picked one up as his second item. So doubling down on that anti-heal, but limiting the amount of defenses that inbound has to him early on.
Yeah, I don't love Divine here for the Ganesh. I mean, if you have a similar comp to what they had in Game 1, you just have no one to apply it, that's one thing, but Baronic's going to apply it just fine. You're clearly going to get hit with a lot of stuff. You've been picked 3 times already. Don't love the Divine this early for the Ganesh.
Wrong Yu will catch out inbound inside the River's Rebuke. Panatom will dunk on him. The Dharmic Pillars have been dropped through, but they're not doing a whole lot. It's Zapman who puts in the final damage pump just to take him out. Dark Portal by Stewart, and a dive in by Panatom drops the winds to zone away the carries.
Wow.
And now it's a 4 versus 4. The Leviathans are a little low on health.
Whoa.
They'll use the Sanctified Fields, expecting maybe the Scarabs to go a little deeper.
Yeah, some questionable button presses there towards the end. Stewart uses both relics whenever Baronic should be able to tell him that they're backing up, so he uses both relics, totally wastes those. And then Zapman totally wastes Sanctified Field, so a bit sloppy at the very end, but again, it starts with, hey, inbound's really far ahead of everyone else. He's totally alone in the midst of 3. Let's just trap him and kill him. And it's a pretty easy task to do so when we were just talking about how he won't be very tanky yet.
Well, Panatom, he's got a Shogun's Kasari for his second item here in the jungle. I'll be honest, I didn't fully pay attention to see if that was the item that he picked up from his passive or not into that tree.
I think it had to be.
But yeah, I'd assume it would probably have to be. It's not too often second item your jungler just goes, yeah, Shogun seems like a great thing here. Usually like something like your support or your solo would kind of go towards that.
Right, and maybe Rongu still does go towards Shoguns, but this feels really good on Gilgamesh anyways, because he actually leverages the attack speed that he gets from the aura. Whenever he's around Shito and Zapman, that's great. It means that maybe Rongu dies at a team fight. We still have a little bit more objective pressure because we have another Shoguns on our team, but it also makes his dive much easier onto Baronic, where before Dharmic Pillars would shred his magical protection, and between that and Baronic's pen, he might be dealing true damage even to the warrior jungle. Now, no shot. He's gonna have a lot ready to go with that Shoguns.
We're in a downtime here, Aggro. I'm a little tilted by how Panatom has gone his build path here, where he had a tier 1 item, then he sold it and got a tier 3 item immediately after, so there's a gap. And that's something that I do in like my 12 a.m. assault games, where I just like build 4 tier 1 items and then build the last and sell the rest. But he's doing it here in the Pro League and zoning out the rest of the team so that the Leviathans can pick up the Oni Fury and get another objective up for them.
But last time it was traded for the Pyromancer. Let's see if the Silver Scarabs to do the same, but this time Yarkor is local to try and steal it away,
no
and he
way.
Does. Dude, this guy,
You gotta
man.
be kidding me, man.
This guy on RDO is just too clean. Can't do it in front of him, and now that gives the Leviathans a nice little boost. It turns that from a pretty even trade into a pretty significant experience or gold lead for the Leviathans in comparison to where we were just a minute ago.
That was 2 Veils from a cleanup. That was a stun and a Primordial Onslaught, and the silence even came through. Yarkor was silenced, and he still somehow steals that Pyromancer. I don't understand how this man does it. Shinto will walk out of this fight in the mid lane. Yarkor is just disgusting on this god, man.
Yep, makes it look good, especially whenever he doesn't fall too far behind like he did last time. Cues it up, nice and easy. Just mistimed that silence a little bit there from Scream, and Scream nearly ended up falling on the back end as well.
Going towards this tier 2 tower and left, Stewart eats a lot of damage from the orbs. Inbound is on the way. Tower goes down. River's Rebuke utilized here by Wrong Yu to cut off one path, and then a couple of Riptides to give them some extra distance out. One Veil opened up. but it's too little too late. The Leviathans, they grab the tier 2 tower and they walk out cleanly.
Yeah, I don't know how that happens. I mean, you cannot just give up a tier 2 for free. You know that they're going to start sieging. You know, they've got Oni waves. You have to be there. And I don't know, you know, where Scream was ahead of time, what Baronic was up to, but definitely a lack of rotation over there. And Baronic just has not really gotten involved yet this game. He's got assists on both kills for the Solar Scarabs, but is very far behind in farm. I mean, he's 4 levels down to Shinto. That's not gonna be enough. You know, he's got to get more farm, or at least be there. If you're not going to be catching up in farm, at least be there to defend the tower.
I've always been curious because I don't know the answer. I don't even know if Gore can pick this one up immediately, but I'm curious what the fastest level 20 in a game is. I mean, we're not even 18 minutes in, and Shinto is right at the cusp of hitting that level 20 mark. I'm curious what his XP needed left to hit that point is. He may be able to get it with just one more wave, maybe a camp, maybe a little bit more here. Yarkor will dive in aggressively to help out Panatom, bail him out from inbound, and Scream. Stun only does hit Yarkor there at the tail end. The Solar Scarabs don't have many defenses left. They only have a tier 2 in mid, and then the tower's over on the right side to defend.
And the good news in that is that Leviathans can't just get a bunch of gold by pushing towers. You know, they'll get a lot. They'll get 3,500 if they wipe these towers off the map, but it's not like they've gained this huge lead and haven't even gotten gold out of the more permanent objectives. You know, this is one-time cash-ins available in the form of these towers. So, you know, the Leviathans get them. Not a good look for the Scarabs, but at least this is a finite amount of gold that they can get in this way.
Well, tower and mid no longer there. Now it is only the tier 1 and tier 2 on the solo side of the map left to defend. Shinto level 19 on this Amuzin Cobb. Left side main objective down. Pyromancer is down. Only the Fire Giant left. But they did use their Frenzy in that last little tower push, so they won't have it here if they try and start up this FG.
Yeah, I don't think I love the idea of them going straight in on the Fire Giant from this position. They're up by a lot, but they've got a lot of gold in hand that they should spend before they go back and really go for it. Yeah, Yarkor's got basically a full item, 2,500 gold worth waiting in his pocket. Shinto can upgrade that starter item and 500 more gold. No reason to try and force a fight right now when you're going to get significantly stronger off of just one more back.
Now level 20 for Shinto. SOT, one being targeted here. He'll have to use the Fatal Strike to get away from Yarkor and Zapman, who have rotated towards this right side to keep putting some pressure in that lane. Scream, level 16 on the clean, will jump into the wall by the Fire Giant and immediately jump out, realizing there's maybe not much that he can do. Might need to try and go and help his team out as tier 1 tower goes down, and now only one final structure standing for the Leviathans to take.
I will say there's 2 things that I think are good news for the Scarabs. And it's number 1, they've got very good ward vision right now on this right side of the map. They're obviously going to lose the primary ward on FG itself, but these little secondary wards that just show pathing are really helpful and can give you context clues on when the enemy is on Fire Giant, when they got there, how much damage they're probably doing, all that kind of good stuff. Secondarily, it's that they have cleaned up, and I think that she's where she's really good, is on Fire Giant dances.
Wrong Yu gets caught out, but Yarkor shows up with a triple stun, a River's Rebuke out of the support to try and hold them in. Scream gets caught out, he's the first one down. Zapman picks another, and an immediate double kill for Shinto. 3 wiped off the map instantly of the Solar Scarabs, and now the Leviathans can look towards the major objective.
Man, the Scarabs just keep taking these fights where they just aren't going to have the tools. I mean, there's no way that the Leviathans are just going to let you try and kill Wrong Yu, who's very tanky, by the way, and has got River's Rebuke and has got Meditation, and you just don't have, you know, Baronic isn't right there, Stewart isn't right there. They're trying to 3v1 him with 2 tanks and an assassin. That's just not going to work, and the Scarabs just have not worked very well as a unit in these games where they've lost. They just have not played as a full 5-man stack very well. It's been a little bit too much individual attempts at plays, and even the game they won, you know, those were great individual plays from Solar Troll. It was good team play on the invades, but they never really had a 5-on-5 team fight because they were too far ahead. Scarabs just are not looking like they're on the same page right now.
Leviathans are going to clean up the rest of the map here, remove any and all structures off. They already took the mid lane Phoenix. They'll take the tier 2 in solo, add 1,500 more gold in, where they're just under that 10K mark of being up ahead of the Solar Scarabs. Everybody will go back to base to reset themselves. But Aggro, where's the defense from the Solar Scarabs here? Where's that silver lining on these Phoenixes?
You gotta hope that Scream can get a really good Veil off, and maybe a multi-man silence or something like that. You need a great Dharmic Pillars from inbound that traps a bunch of people. You need to bait Sanctified Field and River's Rebuke, likely separately, because I don't think the Leviathans will overlap them necessarily. You have to bait both of those to make sure that those don't insta-win the team fight. Oh, and Winds of Shamash. So you got to get all that, and then you've got a chance. But you don't win for free, even if you do all those things. You have a chance at that point.
Inbound will turn around to silence Yarkor's dash, but the silence is not going to do much else to help him. River's Rebuke is there, but inbound is not. He is erased off the map, and it's another kill for Yarkor. I should say the first kill of this game for Yarkor. Another one for the Leviathans, up 11-2. And a hard defense left here for the Scarabs. But at least they got the River's Rebuke.
They got the River's Rebuke, yeah, but they didn't get the Dharmic Pillars that they needed, and now it's a 5-on-4.
Trying to defend this Phoenix is all that the Scarabs might be able to do here. SOT walks up and Stewart, but they don't have the defense to slow down the Leviathans of pushing in. Yarkor dives in and finds two instantly, gets the fatal strike out of SOT. Panatom will help Shinto in a racing Scream off the map. Zapman gets SOT. And with just those kills, the Leviathans will punch their ticket to the Smite World Championship with their victory over the Solar Scarabs here.
And made it look easy in that game. They had the one draft in game 2 that I don't think really worked that well. Their execution wasn't there, and a lot of that credit goes to the Scarabs for playing well in that game 2, but the other 3 games in this series, J-Mac, were just absolute domination from the Leviathans. It just never felt like they were going to be losing control. Their side lanes played well. Their mid 3v3 played well. I thought Panatom had a really good day, as he has most of this year, where he's been a really huge factor for this team. Leviathans are worlds bound. We all knew it would happen. This team is just too good to be missing out on the biggest tournament of the year.
Well, Leviathans, they get the ticket to the Smite World Championships, and now the Solar Scarabs have a bit of a harder path to go through, as they've got to go up against the winner of tomorrow's matches for their last opportunity to make it there.
Yeah, it's going to be tough, man, because, you know, they barely beat the Warriors. That was a reverse sweep that was necessary. You know, assuming the SPL team comes out, it's not guaranteed still for the Scarabs. So they've got to try and stay mentally strong. They've done a very good job of that this year. This team clearly has what it takes to make it to the World Championship, but has to be able to show up and execute on game day.
It's got to be a big cleanup for the Solar Scarabs, but to the Atlantis Leviathans, they're all said and done here for their tournament. It's over for them. They've moved on. They get to go to the Smite World Championships in a 3-1 win over the Solar Scarabs. We'll take it to the desk right after the break to close out the set.
Atlantis Leviathans are going to Worlds, and that's exactly what Goremiser's laughing about. Nothing else that was happening before the camera came to us. Smite World Championship quarterfinalists locked in. It's the Atlantis Leviathans moving on. Excited for them and the fashion that they got it done as well. They slip up in Game 2, where the Solar Scarabs came out hot, and then they right the ship, win Games 3 and 4 in pretty convincing fashion. Goremiser, the last 2 games in this set, Games 3 and 4, felt like standard Leviathans.
Yeah, and very controlling on top of that, right? I mean, and you get a lot out of that Game 3, which just feels kind of absurdly in their favor. And then, Umoja gets locked in, and you're just kind of like, okay, well, we've seen how this usually goes. We'll see if it continues that way. That's actually a fun one on Twitter. And you had mentioned, we were talking about this, someone had asked, like, how many times had Hardcore gotten RDO and Wrong U gotten Umoja throughout the year? And up to this point, it was 3, now 4. And all 4 of them have been wins for them this year. So that's not a combo that you want to go up against.
Wait, you mean a team with ridiculously good frontliners get some of their best picks and they win those games?
Makes
some sense.
Sometimes it turns out that it works that way. I think it's always really fun because we always get to watch this. We always get Zapman, easy to get Panatom or Shinto highlights. And it's always fun when you get to see some from Wrong U and you get to see some, of course, from Hardcore as well. And you really do get to see them. I think what was it, Game 1, where we were talking about how every single play you could see, if a kill was happening for somebody, you got to see 2 people usually up front. It was Panatom, Wrong U for the mid 3v3. Then, of course, now it transitioned to Hardcore and Wrong U. I just think they all look really good for their front line, and then of course you transition and look towards what the back line is capable of doing, all these carries, and you get something insane. We were questioning the AMC a little bit coming into it as to whether or not it would stand up to the Uller. It's a little less mobile, it doesn't have the same amount of peel. How's it going to look in comparison? Good. Still, so it didn't really seem to slip up at all. In fact, if anything, he was just hitting harder.
You think Shinto misses playing mages, Gore? We got an Uller, Medusa, Uller, and AMC. Didn't play a single mage in this set.
Old Persephone,
right?
Like I could feel that, like being like a heartache.
This has got to be a weight off the shoulders of the Atlantis Leviathans, clearly favored on this side of the bracket. But just to confirm it, right? There's always the big what ifs. The Solar Scarab's such a wild card team. The Oni Warriors, the Winter Dogs are looking good. There's always such a what if. Until the game is over, you're not certain. The game is over. The Leviathans are certain. They're going on to the Smite World Championship quarterfinals. Which, what did we say, starts exactly 3 weeks from today, I think?
3 weeks from, today. It's Friday. I thought it was Thursday. 3 weeks
We've
from
already
today.
talked about how our weeks kind of blend together, and that's the perfect example of it. Post-game stats.
In fact, around this time, they'll probably be playing.
Actually, you're right. We'll be in the throes of the quarterfinals this time in 3 weeks. But I think, again, to zoom out, this is the style of Leviathans we wanted to see.
Yeah.
And I don't mean any disrespect to the Winter Dogs, but it's an SEC team. Not a lot of data between those 2 teams. Leviathans came out refocused. A team in the Solar Scarabs that we've at least seen more data on against the SPL level teams had the ability to throw a wrench in the mix of the plans here of the Atlantis Leviathans. Small one, little baby wrench in Game 2. But not much after that. Shinto, the man who plays in the mid lane but didn't play a single mage here today, standing by post-game interview.
Yeah, thanks. Let's actually talk about that just a little bit here. You're the mid laner, the mage player. Everybody loves seeing the big magical damage numbers, and you didn't play a single one. Talk to me about these hunters in mid here.
Yeah, I actually hate play hunter in mid, but if my team want me to play hunter, I'm gonna enjoy to play some Uller and some hunter, and yeah, I always get fun plays wherever I need to play.
Was it like Zapman didn't want to play the hunters, so he made you, or was it just everybody's like, all right, just play some hunters for us?
I mean, this meta is for that, and Steven wants to play magical hunters too, so I can adapt and play some hunter in mid too.
When it comes down to these kind of games here, and you get some of your quintessential picks like a Wrong U and an RTO, talk to me in the draft when you got to lock those 2 in. How confident were you guys in winning that last game?
Yeah, in the last game when Wrong U locked in the Yemoja, we already knew we win that game, so it was so freeing.
Tell me one final thing here. Are these just like the winning shoes? I don't know if we can get a camera pan down. Are these just like the winning shoes here, the M&M flip-flops?
Of course, these my Lucky Charms.
There you go. The M&Ms are the lucky charm. Shinto, congratulations on your win. I'll let you get back with the team to celebrate. Congrats on making it to the Smite World Championships.
Thank you.
I don't know what he's talking about. Those are M&Ms, not Lucky Charms. Lucky Charms are all the marshmallows in the cereal. Those
Heart stars and horseshoes, clovers and blue moons, hourglasses, rainbows, and tasty red balloons.
Why did I know Goremiser was going to know that song? If anyone's going to know it, it's going to be
Fun fact, instead of I can't remember which one it was. There one used to be Pots of Gold.
Yeah.
But then they took that out and replaced it, and they've actually replaced it again. And I was upset about it because it was like in the last 2 or 3 years.
Right, and you had to relearn the
or at
song.
least for me.
You had to
Well, I
relearn
didn't
the song.
relearn it, obviously. That's the one that I grew up with.
Yeah, clearly not. Shinto, I love the confidence here at the end of that interview. Yeah, it was free. When
Hourglasses. That used to be Pots of Gold. Sorry, I got there.
No, it's fine. We're winding up the hourglass on the road to the Smite World Championships. Not all is done though for the Solar Scarabs. They showed us a lot of fight, a lot of effort in the Oni Warrior set earlier on. The Solar Scarabs will still have a chance to move on to the Smite World Championship. That's the important fact right now. The Winter Dogs and the Oni Warriors, that'll be our first matchup on Saturday morning. The loser of that one will go home. The winner of that one will move on to face the Solar Scarabs in the last chance game. So the Winter Dogs and Oni Warriors, one more game for one more chance at moving on. And so obviously disappointed, but I think the Solar Scarabs probably move forward with some confidence in how their first set went. Now over here in Group B, Gore, we haven't had many contested matchups, all 3-0s. We assume this one between the Jade Dragons and the Olympus Bolts, also with a Worlds quarterfinal spot on the line. This one should be maybe another set that goes beyond 3.
Yeah, and it's going to be a fun one to watch. I think both of these teams are great at adapting to each other specifically, although I will say historically, at least tournament-wise, it's always been the Dragons, right? So you have to think that the Bolts may be coming in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, and they're in a similar position, right? Despite the history of these teams or whatever you want to look at, both of them, a win is great, a loss is not the end of the world. It's not comfortable, as you had highlighted, but you still have another shot, right? You just want to be able to secure it as soon as possible. Like the Leviathans, guess what? They have 3 weeks where they can just prep for Worlds, they can relax, they can watch the rest of the groups, do whatever they want. The Scarabs, they're now sweating and planning for Sunday. Right. That's going to be the same case for this next set as well. Someone gets to relax, watch the rest of the groups, and chill. The other person's going to be scribbling down notes furiously trying to figure out what opponent they're going to go up against.
Atlantis Leviathans have looked dominant throughout this weekend so far. Unfortunately, that was our last look at them because, as Goremizer mentioned, they're kicking up their feet. Kind of final thoughts here, Gore, on our next set, because I think you're going to be on the desk, so you're going to get to talk about it a little bit. I'll be casting it with Mifflin. Yeah, you'll be right where I'm sitting. Yeah. Thank God for that, because people are done with me. Jade Dragons up against the Olympus Bolts. Both of their respective sets similar to one another, right? Both quick 3-0s. Do you have more confidence in one team over the other just based on previous play this week, or do you think they're both playing near top form?
From just this week?
Yep.
That's a tough one. I want to say I'm feeling a little twinge of more confidence towards the Bolts.
But it's hard.
It's only because the opponent that they 3-0'd was SPL versus the SCC. Like it's one of the just hierarchy, I guess, of standings. Like technically, that gives them an edge.
To be fair, that's a hard question. Yeah. And I didn't expect you to have an answer to it. I would have rode the line and said, I don't know, they both look good, Gore.
Well, it's like that.
Right. Well, look, a lot of questions are about to get answered. The Jade Dragons versus the Olympus Bolts. Smite World Championship quarterfinal on the line. Coming up next.
On the first day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me a jungler who belongs in Bronze 3. On the second day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 2 shielding Gebs and a jungler who belongs in Bronze 3. On the third day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding Gebs, and a jungler who belongs in Bronze 3. On the fourth day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 4 crying mids, 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding Gebs, and a jungler who belongs in Bronze 3. On the 5th day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 5 gold teammates, 4 crying mids, 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding Gebs, and a jungler who belongs in Bronze 3. On the 6th day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 6 subs of feeding, 5 gold teammates, 4 crying mids, 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding gaps, and a jungler who belongs in bronze 3. On the 7th day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 7 Sobek swimming, 6 subs of feeding, 5 gold teammates, 4 crying mids, 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding gaps, and a jungler who belongs in bronze 3. On the 8th day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 8 healers healing, 7 Sobek swimming, 6 subs of feeding, 5 gold teammates, 4 crying mids, 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding gaps, and a jungler who belongs in bronze 3. On the 9th day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 9 Loki splitting, 8 healers healing, 7 Sobek swimming, 6 subs of feeding, 5 gold teammates, 4 crying mids, 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding gaps, and a jungler who belongs in bronze 3. On the 10th day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 10 Anhers leaping, 9 Loki splitting, 8 healers healing, 7 Sobek swimming, 6 subs of feeding, 5 gold teammates, 4 crying mids, 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding gaps, and a jungler who belongs in bronze 3. On the 11th day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 11 discos dabbing, 10 Anhers leaping, 9 Loki splitting, 8 healers healing, 7 Sobek swimming, 6 subs of feeding, 5 gold teammates, 4 crying mids, 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding gaps, and a jungler who belongs in bronze 3. On the 12th day of Smite, mismatch making gave to me 12 Raigens drumming, 11 discos dabbing, 10 Anhers leaping, 9 Lokis splitting, 8 healers healing, 7 Sobek swimming, 6 subs of feeding, 5 gold teammates, 4 crying mids, 3 fat eggs, 2 shielding gaps, and a jungler who belongs in bronze 3. Thank you very much.